Okay, we just request all the participants except the panelists to please keep your videos off because we might run out of bandwidth. So all the participants, please keep your videos off. You need to type your questions on chat to the host, and if picked, we will get you to ask your question to Kabir sir near the end. I would request all the participants to please not try and unmute your videos. Please keep your videos off. Okay, everybody, a really warm welcome. Yeah, sorry. Okay, warm welcome to all of you once again to a very exciting session that we have in the series two of the talks at F.Stop. I would like to thank Kabir sir for accepting our invitation today to be a part of the panel. Thank you so much for having somebody as eminent as you to come and enlighten us and inspire us through your journey. Thank you, Kabir sir. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Baman Saab, also for agreeing to moderate the session. Thank you so much. You've been so kind and special to us from day one. Thank you so much. I hereby also acknowledge the presence of all our kind panelists who are here today. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Tarun sir, Fauzan sir, Swapan, Prashant Godpule sir, Dinesh Khanna sir, uh, Amita sir. Thank you so much, guys. You've been such pillars of support for this platform. Before I go ahead today to this into this very interesting talk that we have today, I would introduce the platform F.Stop that's been hosting these talks. So F.Stop is basically a group that was started by three photographers, Devang Modi, Ashit, and myself, and we kind of founded it in 2008 with the uh, by wanting such eminent people like Kabir and the other panelists to come and interact with young and upcoming photographers and filmmakers and inspire them to kind of take their journeys ahead in life. I would just take a minute of yours by just showcasing what we have done in the past 20 days during the lockdown period and what F-Stop is all about. Devang, if you could.
Yeah, and just before I start the video, just requesting all the participants to please keep your videos off except the panelists. Participants, please do not turn your videos on. Thank you. And I'm just going to play the video now.
Thank you, Devang. Once again, thank you, everybody, and I'll hand over the stage to Baman sir to take things ahead from here.
Hi everyone. My name is Baman Irani. and it's been a wonderful 20 odd days. For those who have been here since day one, will know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those who are attending this workshop for the last few days, I just thought it would be really nice. F.Stop went ahead, introduced themselves humbly, I would add. I think there's much more to be said for the kind of work that they've been doing, not just during this lockdown, but also over the years, taking all the trouble of getting wonderful speakers to their hometown in Ahmedabad, and enriching a lot of young photographers' lives and putting them on a path of a motivated path and direction. Today, after so many, we were supposed to start and end on the 12th of this month, and there was a list and said we can't go further than this, and the reason why we can't go further than this is because we are all sleep deprived. They are also almost beaten up by their wives, the three of them, for not giving them enough time. And genuinely, I can really understand, because they prompted me to start a whole workshop of my own and a group of mine. I know how much work goes into it. So they said, that's it. We wrap up, and on the 12th, that's our final show. And bye-bye, everybody. And the rest of the coronavirus is on you. And we even had an after party, just by the way, in Gujarat. Yeah, in Gujarat, we lifted some silly glasses and we had an after party. And we all got emotional and we said bye-bye. And then 2 days later, we were back on the road again, because unfortunately, something that's even more contagious than the coronavirus is these F.Stop talks. And we are back on the road. Everybody smiled except Vinay has no expression. Vinay, thank God you're a photographer and not an actor. No director would be able to direct you. You're the worst actor in the world. Thank God you chose photography as a profession.
There goes my role today.
Anyway, so here I am, and I have the privilege of introducing to you someone who's now, we are in, what's it called? F.Stop 2.
Season
right?
2.
Season 2. Within the same season. Yeah. And here we have someone that I have the privilege of. I'm not going to talk too much. Let me talk. कोई बात नहीं. बहुत दिन से बात नहीं किया. मुझे बोलने दो. A gentleman I met many years ago who was starting his career when I had just started mine. So in many ways, even though he looks much older than I, Kabir Khan, he looks much older than I. He is actually my junior in the film industry. And he was about to make his film Kabul Express. What struck me most is this. He's a gentleman. What struck me most about him, that apart from being a gentleman, he's so soft-spoken, he's so intelligent, and he's one of the loveliest and the gentlest of human beings that you would ever meet. And this I say from the heart, Kabir. There was, in my entire career, this is strangely, this has all become about me and not about him, but I'll say this, in my entire career, I've never had to ask someone, thankfully, that, I'd like to work, give me a role in a film. But when he was making 83, I wanted to be in the film. And strangely, he picked up the phone before I did. And he said, "Hi, Baman, this is Kabir Khan. I'd like you to be in the film 83, about the 83 World Cup." And I didn't want to tell him I'm so keen, because then he would slash my price. So he says, so we'll shoot, you're the commentator. I said, "What commentator?" So, "You're a Farooq engineer." So my eyes lit up. Boyhood hero. हमारे ज़माने का जो धोनी था, Farooq engineer. हमारे लिए धोनी से भी बड़ा हमारे ज़माने का. I was a big fan. He came to school and all that. I said, "I'll do this on one condition." मैं डरा हुआ था, but I said, "Do in one condition. You'll fly me to and make me shoot in Lords." So he says, "Done." So we shot, actually, the whole world thinks that we shot for 20 days at Lords. We shot only one day and got 2 shots. But we were there, and then the rest of it we shot in Mumbai. Enough about me. Kabir Khan, I said whatever I had to say, but we all know him for his fantastic work and the wonderful blockbusters, especially my all-time favorite Bajrangi Bhaijaan. Zenobia and I watch that movie together very often, Kabir. It's actually the film that keeps our marriage alive, Anyway. But I think it's very important for us to know that, when people become overnight successes, it takes a lifetime of hard work to get there. And nobody exemplifies that better than Kabir Khan. His journey from the day he picked up a camera as a photographer, his, his the years in his college and his whole in journey as a documentary filmmaker. Who am I and who am I to tell you that? I think he should tell you all this himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this is not a very organic thing. We're sitting inside a theater, but let's put our hands together for the one and only Kabir Khan.
Yeah. Thank you, Baban. I hope I'm half of what you've painted me out to be. I'll be happy with that. But really,
also, let me add that we did a quiz the other day and I beat him hollow, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. Okay, go ahead.
We'll do a rematch. But this is a great pleasure and a great privilege because, as I was, telling Vinay and I was telling Baman, for me, people do know me as a filmmaker, but I'm a desperate wannabe photographer. Actually, when I left my film school, I wanted to actually make my profession as a still photographer. I also sort of actually went about doing that for a few months, but unfortunately, my principal interest was, street photography, documentary photography, candid photography, and I realized at that point in time, I don't think I would have been able to make a living out of it. So I think I chickened out. That's one sort of moment in my life where I chickened out and I took up, cinematography, which led me towards documentaries and then sort of it brought me to films. So sitting here, there's so many of these names of these photographers, and Vinay was asking me at the beginning of the session, do you need an introduction? I said, no, I know all these names. I know all these names. I've seen all their work. I admire all of them. So it's a privilege for me to be sitting here and chatting with F.Stop. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vinay, for putting this all together. So, for me, I was wondering where does one start one journey from? And sitting here today, caught up in something that we know for sure has completely and totally changed the world as we know it, has changed our lives as we know it. I was thinking about where the journey would begin for me, and actually, I realized that the last time this happened to us, when we all, realized that hey, our lives have changed forever, and from here on, everything, the way we travel, the way we interact with people will change, was 9/11. And 9/11 was when I was in the US. I was in Atlanta on 9/11. I was actually accompanying Minnie, who was doing a Bollywood show. There's a Lagan tour going on there with Amir and Preeti and Aishwarya and Anil and all these people. I had nothing to do with the film industry at that point in time. I was a documentary filmmaker, but I was there accompanying. Like I was plus one for my wife Minnie, and I was in Atlanta and we were suddenly woken up. We were on the 42nd floor of a hotel, which, along with the CNN towers and the Coke headquarters, were the three high profile targets, as to say, or high profile buildings in Atlanta. And at that point in time, all planes had not been accounted for. So all these tall buildings were getting evacuated, and we came running down and we were ushered outside the hotel. And we, at that point, realized what had happened. I obviously we were then stuck there because the flights had been cancelled. There were no planes flying at that point in time. We drove actually from there to Houston, stayed there for a couple of weeks, and then by the time I came back to India, it was October. Little did I know that actually that incident would have such a huge impact actually on my career, and for the next 7 to 8 years, all my work would actually have the backdrop of 9/11. My documentaries, and then my first two feature films also. So I came back to October. Now, why also 9/11 was important in terms of my work was because it was obviously directly linked to Afghanistan, which was playing host to Al Qaeda. The Taliban regime there was playing host to Al Qaeda, which had claimed responsibility for 9/11. And pretty much coming back to India, the American bombing started and the Taliban regime was being dismantled. Now, I had already done a short stint in Afghanistan in 1996. Um, I had been commissioned to do a documentary for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Afghanistan. And I went there. I was very excited. That was my first trip to Afghanistan. We landed over there. And this was, the film was very difficult because because it was on the effects of war on children. So it was a very difficult documentary to actually go about and shoot, and seeing all those children. And what added to our difficulty was that that was a time when this was, I think, in February '96, and that was a time when the Taliban was just 20 kilometers outside Kabul. They'd still not taken over Kabul, and there would be shelling of Kabul every day. Like every day that we would be going about, sporadic bombings would take place, shelling would take place. And I remember one incident very clearly when I was walking in the evening back to my guest house, and suddenly we saw these waves of rockets flying over the city. It was like Diwali into 100, just waves and waves of rockets flying in. And I was like, oh shit. I said, okay, now they're coming in. This is it. This is the end. And, I was looking very nervous, but when I was looking around, nobody seemed to be very bothered about the fact that we were, seeing these hundreds and hundreds of rockets flying over the. And so I went to the watchman, the guard at the guest house, and I said, what is this? And he said, Rasam. I said, what Rasam? And then he explained to me that the children of two warlords were getting married. So they are letting off these fireworks to celebrate their wedding. And that was real rockets being fired. So that brought home to me, the arsenal that America had pumped into Afghanistan after the Soviet occupation was more than the combined arsenal of Indian and Pakistani army put together. And there was so much there, and there's so much there even today. And so anyway, things started heating up after that, and we actually had to abandon that documentary and came back to Delhi, thinking that we'll go back when things settle down. But within 20 days of us leaving, Taliban had overrun Kabul, and then we couldn't go back for the next 5 years. So obviously, post 9/11, when I came back, now I was one of the few people here who had already had prior knowledge and experience in Afghanistan. And we started reaching out to documentary, production houses who would want work done in Afghanistan, and me and my friend Rajan. And I guess for the commissioning houses, they saw these two mad guys more than willing and happy to go into Afghanistan. And within 10 days, we got a commission for a document to go and sort of profile a country coming out of the shadows of Taliban. So that's it. We got our equipment together, and we, of course, unlike most documentary filmmakers, journalists at that point in time who were going through the regular Peshawar route, we couldn't do that. Being Indian documentary filmmakers, stroke journalists, there was no way we would get a visa to go fly to Peshawar and then drive in to Kabul. So we overflew Afghanistan. We went to Tashkent. From Tashkent, we drove to Tajikistan, reached Dushanbe, and that is a place from where a lot of the supplies were being taken. And we tried everything to get into Afghanistan. Forget about what was lying in store for us in Afghanistan. Just going into Afghanistan became a nightmare. We spent 14 days there, and we tried to drive across. Avalanches. We tried twice to drive across to get return back. There was somebody promised, okay, there's going to be a helicopter. That's can you hear me? Is there? Can everyone hear me? Is that
there was some audio disturbance, and the video was also having a lag, but now it's okay. It's recovered, I think. Yeah.
So there was a helicopter that was promised that they'll be going across, and we'll be able to go in that. And 2 days before that chopper could come, we got the news that that chopper has crashed, and it's not coming to the Dushanbe. So we were stuck there, and not knowing what to do. And after 14 days, we said, okay, maybe we're just not going to be able to make it to Afghanistan. Let's go back to Delhi. And that last day, Rajan and I decided to give one last shot. We went to the air base. And there were these two Russian helicopters being loaded with medical supplies to be flown to Kabul. And I said, this is the only chance we'll get. We went, we cornered the Russian pilot. And fortunately for us, this is 2001. The Russian economy was not doing very well. It was easy to use persuasion, the Indian style. We took him, behind the chopper, showed him some dollars, and before you knew it, he had taken $2,000 from us and put us into the helicopter. And we were hidden in the medical supplies, and the chopper took off. And it's it's basically you have to cross the Hindu Kush to go from Dushanbe to Kabul. And the Hindu Kush are really high mountains, in fact, second only to the Himalayas. So there was no way that you can fly over them. He flew like through the valleys in Hindu Kush. It was a 50-minute chopper ride, absolutely spectacular. But before we could reach Kabul, somewhere, in the mountains, he brings the chopper down, and not even like down to the level of, where you can just, it's about 15, 20 feet hovering above the ground. And he says, jump. And I said, what do you mean jump? You've taken $2,000 from us. We need to go to Kabul. And he said, no, 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 not Kabul, because obviously we were illegal, right? It was a Russian military helicopter. We couldn't be in there. He said, jump. So I said, at least bring it down lower. And he said, no, if I go low, I'll go off. And in his broken English, of course, what I understood was one, that he would go off the radar. Two, it was a very big chopper. So there was no way that apparently if he goes down, then to restart and fly again would be another 15, 20 minutes, and they would wonder where he is. So he said, you have to jump. And that's how Rajan and I landed in Afghanistan. We actually had to jump off with our bags and our cameras, and there we were. And this is exactly the way in the film when I made Kabul Express. This is exactly the way that John and Arshad land in Afghanistan. But when you see the footage, I'll show you the chopper was much lower for them. It was higher for us. And we jump off, and this chopper flies away. And we are standing there in the middle of nowhere, like 360 degrees. I'm seeing snow-capped mountains. We don't know where the hell Kabul is. And the chopper flies away. And then there's this one lone person that we see a distant away walking towards us. And this guy is coming towards us. And we realize he's a Afghan Mujahideen of the Northern Alliance, looking really pissed off because he's just seen these two guys jump off a helicopter and the chopper going away. It was a Russian helicopter. And he's not very happy with what he's seen. So he's coming and he's cocking his Kalashnikov and walking towards us and very angrily saying something to us in Dari. And we had no idea what he was saying. But believe you me, I really thought that's the way my life is going to end. That's my final moment. Yahan pahadon mein, it's the end. And as he came approaching us, I kept saying, Hindustan, Hindustan, because the one thing that we did know that the Northern Alliance, Mujahideen, had a lot of warmth and goodwill towards Indians because India had been supporting them for their fight against the Taliban. So we just came, Hindustan, Hindustan. And that suddenly sort of, he understood what we were saying. And this guy stops and he smiles and he starts singing a song. Mere sapno ki rani kab aayegi tu. And that day I realized the power of Bollywood. I said, Bollywood saved my life. I realized this is the most powerful medium our country has. And maybe there I said, okay, that's the medium I want to tell stories on. I want to just quickly show you a clip from the trailer of Kabul Express to show how we landed up um, in Kabul. So that is how we landed up in that Mujahideen after he sang that song for us. We said we want to go to Kabul, and before we know it, he had got a tank. He radioed, and a tank came, and that's how Rajan and I rolled into Kabul, sitting on top of a tank. This is one of the first sites in Kabul. Now, this photograph actually is very deceptive because it doesn't give you or show you that this city has seen like battles for the last 2 decades and has seen 7 battles for Kabul. So from a distance, this is across the Kabul River, and that's the Kabul Mosque, and that's the only building actually which we saw when we rolled into Kabul, which was not pockmarked with bullets. They had renovated this one building. Otherwise, every single building that we went to was in shambles. This is actually when you went into Kabul. This is what Kabul would look like. Every house had been, had a wall blown off, the roofs blown off. There was just this is their famous palace, which has actually been now been left as in a certain sense, as a monument to the years and years of war. If you'd seen the clip, the trailer, one of the shots I've taken is actually, again, I brought a bombed out car, put it exactly in the same place and replicated this frame. So I did a lot of that in Kabul Express. I replicated a lot of the frames that I've had during the documentary in Kabul Express. everywhere you go, you would see these mujahideen. Guns was something like, like we carry mobile phones, they would be carrying guns. Um, and slowly, it was, in a certain sense, a country that was limping back to normal. But one thing that hit you was, even then, though the Taliban had by then left Kabul, the fear amongst the women. You would still not see women without this blue burqa, which was pretty much, all over Afghanistan. And that's something that it took months for them to come out of it. So, scenes like this, women lining up for rations of food, totally fully covered by this by their blue burqas, or something that was everywhere. Everywhere you went in Kabul, you would see this. This is a little girl in Panjshir. This is again that same mosque early morning in Kabul. This is a, again, I said that this photograph was titled "Even Wars Have Limits." And this is something that, in between there was firing happening, there was shelling happening, and suddenly the shelling stopped for maybe an hour or so. And these two kids came out, put this metal cable around the tip of the barrel of a bombed out tank, and it was a swing for them. So I said, for kids, even this becomes a playground. And this is actually the photograph that got me the Nikon International Photo of the Year. Um, so we get into Kabul, and now, of course, it's we're trying to document all these processes of how a country, after living with the Taliban for 5 years, is coming back, and that all those things actually go on to become my documentary, The Taliban Years and Beyond. But there's one incident that I very distinctly remember, because I think that is the moment for me, which in that moment lay the seed of the idea for Kabul Express. So we were there in Kabul, and there was one prison on the border with Tajikistan in an area called Panjshir. Now, Panjshir is an area to the northeast of Afghanistan, in the northeast of Afghanistan. It's the only sort of 5% of land of Afghanistan that was never overrun by the Taliban, because it was held by legendary, one of the most famous commanders called Ahmad Shah Massoud, who was assassinated 2 days ago, 2 days before 9/11 by the Al Qaeda. So that prison there was Wab, and Wab means two rivers, right? It was like a natural fortress. It was a prison which was on a little island, surrounded on two sides by rivers and then by these high mountains all over. So, sorry, one second, my internet connection. Can you hear me now? It's somebody said internet
Now,
connection.
yes. Now,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So Doab was where all the foreign mercenaries who were fighting alongside Al Qaeda and Taliban, they were being captured by the Northern Alliance forces and by the Americans, and they're being shipped out to this prison in this remote part of Afghanistan. And that's where every journalist, every documentary filmmaker wanted to go there, because that was the gold mine of information. And the Americans were doing a lot of checkbook journalism, where they would be just throwing money at people in Afghanistan and getting into stories, because at that point also, Afghanistan is actually just divided into fiefdoms of warlords, and every 50 kilometers a new warlord would kind of stop you, and if you don't give that warlord money, you're not going to be able to proceed. But again, we played the India card, because the Northern Alliance was had a lot of goodwill. We went to the Ministry of Defense over there, which is, when I say Ministry of Defense, they were just people coming together. There was nothing. The country had not been formed by then. It was just people taking on responsibilities. And we said, we want to go to Doab. And before you knew it, they put us in this old ramshackle Russian Jeep, and we drove out for Doab. It was an 8-hour journey, because the roads had all been bombed. There were no roads left between Kabul and Panjshir. It took us 8 hours. We reached this prison, Doab, and we go in, and the jailer just opens the gate to the compound, and he ushers Rajan and me in, and we there, and in front of us there are these 40 terrorists of Al Qaeda and Taliban sitting in front of us, most of them in shackles and chains, and they're just looking, staring at us like we're some animals from a zoo, and we're looking at them. We don't know what the hell to do. Fortunately, there were armed guards around, so we felt a little comfortable. Most of them were Arabs, some were Chinese, some were Sudanese, but we naturally started gravitating towards those who were from Pakistan, because they knew our language. They would understand us, and then we started talking with them, and putting some of them on camera too. And there was one particular person called Khalid. He must have been in his early 40s, and he was the most articulate, and he would speak with us. And so we ended up staying in that prison for the next 2 days. We lived in that prison. The Taliban cooked korma roti for us and fed us, and we had to sleep in the jail. And we would keep interviewing these guys. And Khalid was the most interesting one of them because he, every time the camera would come on, would become like the ideologue of Taliban. He would just speak about how what they did, they believed in, how it was correct. The moment I would switch on the camera, he would say they were just a bunch of fools, illiterate idiots. And I said, like, come on, say that on camera. And he would never do that. So he was this very disciplined uh, soldier of the Taliban. I personally believe, and this is something that I feel has been seriously underreported later because I think it was a very embarrassing fact for Pakistan. And at that point in time, America didn't want to, embarrass Pakistan because they needed them as a base for the fight against Taliban. Well, I thought Khalid was part of the establishment. He was part of the military establishment because they were very, very common there. And in Afghanistan, when we first went in, they would show us houses and they would say, "Ye wo Pakistani ka ghar tha, ab ud gaya hai." I said, "What do you mean Pakistani?" He said, "Wo Taliban." So I said, "Why do you use that it as a synonym?" He said, "Ha, wo sab wohi tha." So they had this very strong thing that all these guys has come. Of course, I mean the fact is that they did come from madrasas from across the border, but they were essentially Afghans. But when you spoke to the Afghans, they would very strongly say that. So Khalid, I thought was one of them. But again, he would never admit that. So we spent 2 days, and we were going back um, to Kabul after 2 days, and Khalid came behind us, and he said, मैं एक फोन कर सकता हूँ आपके satellite phone से. Can I make a phone call from your satellite phone? That was the only way of you could communicate in those days through your satellite phones. And now, obviously, I became nervous because I mean, this is a guy. He's a soldier of the Taliban, connected to the Al Qaeda, and all those stories about how the Americans were tracking satellite phones, and if they found a connection, the next thing you knew, there would be a cruise missile coming for us, for a satellite phone. So I wasn't very sure about giving it to him, but something made me relent. And also, the jailer said, "Aap isko karne dijiye ek phone." So I said, "Okay, here's the phone." He made that phone call, and I realized that he had called his family in Pakistan. And I realized in that phone call that this was the first time Khalid was speaking to his family in, I think, 3 years. The family thought he was dead. And with this phone call, they realized that no, he's not dead. He's actually alive. And then he called for his daughter, and his daughter came on the phone. And this Khalid was about 6 feet two, 3 feet broad, flowing beard, the stereotype of a Taliban terrorist. And I saw this guy crumbled into a sobbing father when his daughter came on the phone. And somewhere in that moment lay the idea of Kabul Express. That basically, behind every story, there's always a human story. Behind every Taliban soldiers, you definitely will not agree with their ideology or what they did. Behind every one of them, there's a human story, and it's a human story worth exploring. And that's how it all began. And I think I started thinking about putting together a script about the moments and the experiences that we were having behind the camera. Um, but at this point, why that idea actually attracted me, why that idea about some things that are not told to us attracted me is I'll go back to elements that shaped me by the time I had already come to Afghanistan. And that for that I would like, I'll go back to when I was in college. By the end of my graduation, and at 21, I was a complete drifter. I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to become, because my father was, an academic. He was one of the founding professors of Jawaharlal Nehru University. I thought maybe I should become an academic. That was way beyond my capacity. I thought I'll do economics. I thought I'll do law. Law is something that I wanted to pursue in a big way. But being a drifter, I wasn't sure of where I'm going to go. The only thing I knew is that I used to love photography at that point. I'd already done some theater production at that point in time, but all those things were not coming together for me in a tangible form to show me a path. And they say, why not, try something, in media related. But fortunately for me, my sister, who was actually a batch senior to me, had missed her chance of applying to film school because she also, like me, was an avid trekker, and she was trekking in Kashmir when the time for the application to MCRC, the film school, came. So the next year when she was applying, I said, wherever you go, if you're picking up one form, just pick up two of them, and that's how I applied to for Jamia. And fortunately, both of us got through film school. And once I was there, that's when I realized this is my calling. Literally at like a month, like I remember going in, and the first year we only taught still photography, and I remember getting that old war horse, the Nikon FM2 in my hand, with this black and white stock, and say, go and shoot. And that was it. I said, if this can become my profession, I think I found my calling. And in that, in sort of in, I remember one moment. I always had a travel path, so I had not traveled outside of India by then, except Kathmandu. I had not traveled anywhere outside India, but I had traveled a lot in the mountains. I'd done a lot of trekking all over the Indian Himalayas. So the travel bug was in me. And I remember there was one uh, lecture by a documentary filmmaker, Sanjay Kak. He was showcasing his documentary on Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and he sort of was showing this. And in the question hour session, I remember him saying a line which got stuck in my mind, and he said, you want to travel the world, become a documentary filmmaker. And that got stuck in my mind. I said, okay, I want to travel, and maybe documentaries is the way to do it. Fortunately for me, I immediately after film school was able to get in touch with Saeed Naqvi, who's actually also a family friend. Now, Saeed Naqvi, for those of you who are not aware of who he is, he's a very senior journalist who's now not so active because he's not been writing that much. But at that point in time, he was actually known as the headhunter of India, because he had done all these high-profile interviews with Gorbachev, and the first one with Mandela, and all the heads of state. And I knew that he used to travel a lot, and he was obsessed at that point in time about reporting news from an Indian stroke South Asian context, because he felt very strongly, and this is of course before the time that our own network started traveling. He was very aware of the fact that whenever it comes to international news, we would consume all news through the prism of CNN and BBC, and he felt very strongly that no, we need to know international news through an Indian perspective. And that's when I, got in touch with him. He was wanting to do a series of soft documentaries, news features, soft news features on, news around the world. And I said, I'll shoot for you, I'll assist you, I'll edit. I'm from the film school, so I'll be able to help you. And he took me on board. And the first assignment that we went on was to the erstwhile Soviet Central Asian republics, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. These are all the places. And the reason why we were going there was because this is post the breakup of the Soviet Union. And there were a lot of these, documentaries, especially BBC was doing this series talking about the whole resurgence of militant Islam in these Central Asian republics, because these Central Asian republics before the formation of Soviet Union were basically Islamic states, and they said that now that the Soviet Union has gone, there's this resurgence of militant Islam happening over there, and so we wanted to explore that. Now we go there, and on day one, Saeed asks us to take out the camera, and we land up on the streets, and we decide to keep stopping people on the streets and ask them for the nearest mosque. We spent the next hour or two on the streets of Tashkent, and nobody was able to point us out to the nearest mosque. And this is a country that BBC was crying itself hoarse about, actually, a country where Islam was so that entire across those republics.
We lost you. We lost
We lost the voice, and the picture's frozen. You're looking good in the frozen picture. Don't worry.
Am I back now?
Yeah.
Okay. It said internet, but showing me full signal. So, did you lose me where we started asking people on the streets?
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty good
Just
there.
about that.
Yeah, pick it up from there. Yeah.
And we went out with the cameras day one, and because we were exploring a country which apparently, according to BBC and CNN, there was a rise of resurgence of militant Islam, and we started asking people where's the nearest mosque, and we end up spending 2 hours on the streets, and not one person is able to point us toward the nearest mosque. They pointed us out to some churches, but nobody is able to point us out to the mosque. And that trip really taught me one very important lesson. And that's a lesson that has stayed with me. And that's a lesson, in a certain sense, that made me choose some of the subjects. And that lesson was that there's this big gap between the story that was told to us and the story that should have been told to us. And this whole difference in perspective. See, today we have so many different avenues. We have, if we have CNN, we have a counterpoint from Al Jazeera. We have, the Russian news agencies posing a counterpoint. We have our own networks. But in those days, it was only BBC and CNN, and we consumed international news only through that prism. So there was only one perspective coming to us. And that trip suddenly showed me, hey, I mean, this is what they're saying is not gospel. There's always another perspective, and there's always a difference between the story that has been being told to us and the story that should have been told to us. And if you sort of, in a certain sense, see, then a lot of the choice of my stories, even in films, whether it's Kabul Express or whether it's New York, the story lies in that gap between what was told to us and what should have been told to us. And that's the reason I say, the consequent sort of travels with Saeed, which I'll also show you some photographs as I was traveling with him. Just a moment. So, traveling with Saeed was, I started traveling with Saeed literally when I was, I think, 24 years old or 23 years old. So at that point in time, at that stage in your life, and with him in the course of about 5-6 years, I did about 60 countries. It was bizarre. With him, it was like I was living out my dream. There used to be this map in the office, world map, and he would literally sit and he used to call me Khan Saab. He said, Khan Saab, kidhar jana hai? And we would say, that problem is happening there, that conflict is happening there. Why don't we go there? And next day we would be flying there because he being a very senior journalist had these access to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to the different ambassadors. So we would get visas very easily, and we would be flying out all the time. I would be out of the country, like without exaggeration, in a year, there would be about 250 days I would be out of the country, just doing this. And of course, my constant companion would be my still camera. In those days, I would mostly shoot transparencies because that was the training that we had in MCRC. So, and I think transparencies, I truly believe is a tough taskmaster. It really teaches you composition because there's no way you can recompose. It teaches you, exposure beautifully because one stop here and there and it's gone, it's over. So that was for me not only a great learning experience with Saeed in terms of the way one looks at stories and the way one looks at the politics happening in the world, but also just a very exciting time as a young person to be dabbling in photography, taking spending time when we were not sort of shooting the interviews and not doing the documents to be able to go out and shoot. So that I've often said that though that period with Saeed has probably been the sort of formative years for me. And if there's any one person I would today call as my mentor, it's got to be Saeed Bhai, because in those 5-6 years, it just taught me how to see things. It just taught me how to be able to spot a story or spot within the sort of hundreds of stories that are being thrown at you constantly. Just what you pick out, how do you look at it, what is your perspective, what's your individual voice in that story, and that's why I wanted to come back to this chapter of my life to say as to why when that happened with me with Khalid, why did that story hit out? Why did that story sort of call out to me and say, okay, maybe this is the way I need to look at stories, and that's the story that finally excited me to try and write a script for my film. But before I again get onto the script of Kabul Express, I actually want to tell you about one more experience, which was a very intense experience for me, and that was my journey to Tibet and again back to the Central Asian republics for a documentary series called Beyond the Himalayas. This was on the first major sort of documentary series that I shot, which was on Discovery Channel. I'll just show you a small clip from this.
Leaving our companions behind, the film crew drives ahead to the Lak Pala Pass, famous for its panoramic view of the Himalayas. From there we should get a good view of Everest, but Hari has warned us not to expect too much. Reinhold Meissner, the first climber to scale Everest without oxygen tanks, spent an entire month at the first base camp and never saw the summit because of the clouds. But we are in luck. At 17,000 feet, we catch our first glimpse of the famous peak. Just as Hari had predicted, it emerges only momentarily from behind the clouds, and by the time the other jeeps arrive, it has already disappeared again.
So this was a trip. I want to show this clip because this was one of the drive to the north face of Everest was one of the high points of this trip for me. So this trip was a 4-month-long journey, starting from Bukhara and Samarkand, and then traveling through again all the Central Asian republics, and finally passing. We were the first civilian motorcade to pass from the erstwhile Soviet Union into China, from a pass called Torughat Pass, and into Xinjiang province of China, and that in those days it was a very tense border when the Soviet Union was there. So we drove through some 30 kilometers of electrified fences, and the Torughat Pass had not been used. So it was unfortunately I don't have photographs of that because the Chinese didn't allow us to shoot that. But we reached this Torughat Pass, which is I think at about 14,000 feet high, and we reached the pass and it was snowing. And we see through the snow, there are these, People's Liberation Army trucks standing over there. And these Chinese bring out these desks. It's freezing. It's snowing. It's 14,000 feet above sea level. And the Chinese put these desks, take out something, and they take our passports and they go stamping on this impromptu immigration counter that they set up. And then they take our cameras away because we were driving to what was known as the forbidden city of Kashgar. And then from Kashgar, we go, drive towards Inner Mongolia and then come down through Tibet. And then this, the clip of what I showed you towards Lhasa and then Everest. And, this moment is always special for me. And that's why I chose this clip is because one of the most, visually the most magical moments where we reach this pass. And this is the pass from where you get your first viewing of Everest. And we stood there and there was this thick band of clouds right at the altitude where you would have actually seen Everest. And the guides were there and they said, oh, bad luck. And he's saying, this is very common. Sometimes people, will be here for 15 days and they will not see Everest. And then suddenly, like in the shot that you saw, there's almost like a window that's carved out in that cloud. And that moves. And in that window, we see Everest. And we saw it for literally all of 20 seconds. It's just like it was a best moment for us. Like it came, it revealed Everest for 20 seconds, and that's it, it's gone. And then for the next 4 days, we didn't see Everest till we finally reached the base camp of the North Face. So beyond the Himalayas was a trip that was actually a motor expedition, which was sponsored, like you saw those jeeps, that was sponsored by Mahindra Jeeps. And that also, again, was one of the most exhilarating trips of my life because, at that age to go and get to be able to shoot this documentary, 5-part documentary for Discovery. More importantly, it's because of this motor expedition that led to then the second motor expedition, which was also started by Mahindra Jeeps. And that was this time we were driving from Singapore to Delhi. And in this trip, I was asked to direct it, and I had the privilege of being able to. So first, when we were planning this trip, we were like, okay, what does the Singapore and Delhi journey do? Like the last one, Beyond the Himalayas, was more about the Silk Route and Tibetan Buddhism. Now, what is this path? And we realized this is the path that the Azad Hind Fauj had taken. the Indian National Army between 1942 to 1945 had formed in Singapore and marched through Burma towards Delhi. Unfortunately, they were stopped at Imphal. So that's when we decided to go in search of veterans of the Azad Hind Fauj. Now, it was tough because it was, they were all in their 80s. We managed to find them. We managed to get Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. She was the commander of the Rani Jhansi Regiment, the only women's fighting infantry unit in the world. Nowhere before and nowhere after that has there ever been an infantry unit in the world. So we found her, and then we found Dhillon Saab, who was Colonel Dhillon, famous for the Red Fort trials. Dhillon, Sehgal, Shah Nawaz, these are the three officers of the INA who were tried at the Red Fort. And I went to them. They were both 86 at that point in time. I was 26. And I went to them and I said, I want to take you back to Burma. And they thought this guy is a lunatic. Like, I don't know where he's come from. He says, are you mad? I'm not going to go back to Burma now. I said, no, but we want to retrace the route that you took. And nobody from INA had ever gone back. And they told me that. They said, we all dreamt of going back to Burma because that's where it all happened for us. And we did try, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years after we got independence. We all tried to go back to Burma. But Burma in 1948, after the assassination of General Aung had shut down. So nobody was able to go back. And I said, if you come, I can only promise you one thing. At whichever point you feel that you cannot continue with this journey, you can turn back. So they sort of took that condition from me and they came. The moment we reached there, they became soldiers all over again. I mean, it was like, they would get up at 5 in the morning and we would be raring to go. And we had lots of problems in Burma because when we reached Burma, they put us under house arrest. They took away our permissions, our visas. They took away our equipment and we had to go and plead to the military government over there. They said that we have nothing to do with your local politics here, but, can we please complete this story? So they threw out everybody. I was allowed to stay back with 2 people and as part of my crew and the 2 veterans. And then over the course of the next 3 months, we retraced the route that the Azad Hind Fauj had taken. That, for me, was the most incredible story that I'd heard. For me, and then I often say that the one story that made me want to become a filmmaker is that story. I think when I heard that story of the Forgotten Army, I said, okay, this is the story on which I want to make a film. And that's why the first script that I wrote for a film when I landed in Bombay was actually the Forgotten Army. But very soon, having reached Bombay, I realized that's too large a budget would be required for a film like that. And there's, I'm a documentary filmmaker coming from Delhi. Nobody's going to give me that kind of budget.
Okay, we've lost you. We've lost you, Kabir.
You lost you, Kabir. You're frozen. Still looking good. Don't worry.
Am I back?
No, not yet.
Just audio. Yeah, now you're back.
Yeah, we're back now. Yeah.
I'm back now?
Yeah.
My signal is showing full strength. Maybe something from the back end. Okay, so where did you lose me? Did you lose me at when this is the story that made me want to become a filmmaker?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's actually the first film script that I ever wrote was the script called The Forgotten Army, because I'd seen so much with these veterans that I said, maybe this is a story. I'll tell you some anecdotes. Like, for example, there's this place called Mount Popa. Now, Mount Popa is where the last stand of the INA took place. It's before they all sort of literally got massacred or were taken prisoners. Now, it was actually at Mount Popa that Dhillon, Sehgal, and Shah Nawaz had come together, and they were tried for their actions at Mount Popa at the Red Fort trials. So Dhillon Saab, when we reached Mount Popa, obviously wanted to explore that. Now, the headquarters in Mount Popa were inside a cave, because they had been reduced to a guerrilla unit by then, and they were fighting out of the jungles. And they had found this cave with a water body nearby, and they said that would be a perfect shelter for their, when they would go out to fight from and protect them from air raids. And Colonel Lakshmi Sehgal, Captain Lakshmi Sehgal, had never been to Popa, but she had married Colonel Prem Kumar Sehgal after the war, and she said he would only talk about Mount Popa and their battles at Mount Popa, and how she said that he was so obsessed that he named their house in Kanpur Popa. And she said, I used to be so scared that we might have a son and he'd end up calling my son Popa. But fortunately, they had a daughter and he called her Subhashini. But so she wanted to see this cave because she said, all my life I've heard about this cave. And these two 86-year-old would go into these thick tropical forests of Burma and they would try and find this cave. And we were, as I said, we were being trailed by, the intelligence agents of Burma. They were trying to, wanting us out of Burma. So after 2-3 days of searching for this cave, I told them, Dylan Saab, Captain Sehgal, we really need to move forward. We need to finish this film. There's no way, looking for a cave in a jungle like this is looking for a needle in a haystack. They said, give us one more day. And that day they set out at 6 in the morning. We kept going into the jungle. They had some visual indicators. And in the evening at 5 o'clock, they discovered that cave. You can imagine that moment for them where they found the cave. And, Captain Sehgal had told me that, and Dylan Saab had also told me that in that cave, to lift the morale of the soldiers, Captain Sehgal had, Colonel Sehgal had found this little Buddha statue, in one of the hills over there. And he had picked up that Buddha statue and he had placed it inside the cave and said, this Buddha will protect us, from air raids and all dangers. And they would always light a candle in front of that Buddha statue. And 55 years later, we enter that cave. It's pitch dark. We run to the nearest village. We get candles. We light the candles. We enter that cave again. And there in front of us is that little Buddha statue still waiting. So, I mean, moments like this, even today when I narrate it, I get goosebumps. I said, okay, this is the story that I want to make. Years later, of course, I ended up making my most ambitious web series. I just will quickly show you the trailer of that, which is completely and totally based on the story with what I saw with Captain Sehgal and Dylan Saab. These are just some of the images from Burma, which I'll quickly take you through before I show you because it was an extensive drive again over 3 months, retracing the route of the Azad Hind Fauj, from starting from Singapore, going through Malaysia, Thailand, entering Burma, going from Rangoon all the way to Mandalay, and then all the way to the border of Imphal, where the last stand took place. And then, so I'll just quickly take you through these photographs, and then I'll show you the trailer of The Forgotten Army. Again, this is the time when I used to shoot only slides, all mostly transparencies. Yeah, just play this. Not supporting it. Maybe this.
सरकारे ब्रिटानिया की छतरी हमारे सर पे हमेशा कायम रहे। अरे छतरी तो इन्होंने हमें बना रखा है, फट गई तो उठा कर दे दिया जापानियों के हाथ में।
There must at this stage be no thought of sparing the troops or saving the population. The battle must be fought to the bitter end. The honor of the British Empire and of the British Army is at stake.
आजाद हिंद फौज में भर्ती होने के लिए किसी जाति, किसी नस्ल, लड़ाकू, जनाना, मर्दाना बकवास की कोई जरूरत नहीं। जरूरत है कि वो एक हिंदुस्तानी है और अपने मुल्क के लिए लड़ने के लिए पूरी तरह से तैयार है। माया,
कैप्टन सोडी, जिसका नमक खाया है उसे तुम लोग गद्दारी खा रहा है। बास्टर्ड्स! मुझे ये याद नहीं कि मैं इंग्लैंड कब आया था तुम्हारा नमक खाने। लेकिन इतना अच्छी तरह से मालूम है कि पिछले 200 साल से हिंदुस्तान में रहकर तुम हमारा नमक जरूर खा रहे हो. It's time for you to go back home, Major, and leave mine. एक दिन हिंदुस्तान हमारी इस कुर्बानी को याद रखेगा. शायद समझ नहीं पाएगा, पर याद जरूर करेगा.
मैं सींचा गया. चलो दिल्ली आजादी के लिए मिल के लड़े. जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद. मेरी नस नस बहे तू वतन, मेरी
आजाद हिंदुस्तान के सपने को सच करने के लिए आजाद हिंद फौज लड़ती रही.
So this is the web series that I finally got to make. You know what? I wanted. This is the script that I wrote in 2002, 2003, but finally got to make it last year. So that is like it took a long journey for me to finally be able to make it. So as I said, after I realized that there's no way I'm going to be able to make this one, I started writing. I said, okay, I need to write a script which can be made into a small budget film. And that is when I started looking at my experience in Afghanistan. And as I said in the story before that where the seed of the idea of a Kabul Express lay, I started writing that story. And that story came easily to me because it was totally based on my own experiences. In a certain sense, it was autobiographical. It was the story of what happened with two journalists, stroke documentary filmmakers in post 9/11 Afghanistan. And that is basically what Rajan and I had gone through. So that's the script. I came and I started then pushing around and peddling to potential producers. Now, it was not easy at all because I was from Delhi. I literally knew nobody in this film industry, not one person. The only person I'd met from this film industry was Arshad Varsi, because my wife, Mini, and Arshad's wife, Maria, were VJs together in MTV. And we used to literally live out of Arshad's house. Like we gotten ourselves adopted by them and we would live out of the house. So Arshad is one of the first actors I actually shared the idea of Kabul Express with, and he, very readily agreed to be there. And then the journey began to try and meet producers, and I met everybody. That was a time when we all remember was, the time when all the new corporates were coming in with all that talk about, we'll do different cinema, we'll do alternative cinema, not necessarily, the kind of stuff that's happening. So I was very excited. I said, yeah, this is a film without the mandatory, 6 love songs and a love story. So maybe I'll get people to fund this. But I would go and I meet them, and a lot of them would really actually love the story. They all said this is great, but nobody was ready to put their money where their mouth was. And I remember, I'll tell you this one meeting that I had, which was so actually representative of at that time what was happening in the name of all this corporate setups that were happening. So we went to this person, this newly minted corporate company with loads of cash to make films, and I said that when I met him and I said, I want to make a film, I want to pitch it to you. So he said that, sure, well, what is your proposal? I had no idea what he means by that. I said, my proposal is, I propose to make a film. So he said, nahi, aap samjhe nahi. I mean, what is the budget of your film? What is your recovery model? What are the recovery model from the different 14 distribution territories? And I mean, it was all Greek to me. I said, what is this guy talking about? I said, sir, mujhe ye sab kuch nahi aata. This is my first film. I don't have an idea of what is this. Do you want to hear my story? So he says, story sunenge. Lekin actually, Monday to Friday, we discuss proposal. Saturday, we hear the story. So, and this is no exaggeration. This is verbatim the conversation. So I said, okay, then on Saturday, can I come and narrate the story to you? So he says, okay. I go on Saturday and I narrate the story to him, and he likes the story because when you're narrating a story, you can make out from the body language of the person hearing it, like is he engaging or is it a dead loss? So I knew that he's liking the story. The story finished, and he said, it's very nice. And then he said, after a long pause, he said, you know, दो किस्म की फिल्में होती हैं. I said, जी sir. He said, एक होती है pre-Friday film, एक होती है post-Friday film. And I was looking obviously absolutely confused. So he said pre-Friday film होती है जो उसमें एक स्टार होता है, एक्टर होता है, उसका एक बजट होता है और वो ना रिलीज से पहले हम लोग बेच देते हैं डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स को. तो हमारी रिकवरी हो जाती है before the release and we get the budget back before the release on Friday. And that's a pre-Friday film. And then there are post-Friday films. Post-Friday films are where you don't recover the money before the release, but you release it and then it has to garner, you know, its own steam. On its own steam, it has to get good word of mouth and get collections, and then it recovers its money from the box office. I said, "Acha." He said, "तुम्हारी कहानी ना post-Friday है." So I said, "Sir, post-Friday film बना लेते हैं." He said, "नहीं, actually हमारी company का charter है, हम सिर्फ pre-Friday film बनाते हैं." So I said, "Oh." I said, then he says कि हाँ लेकिन एक तरीका है जो आप इसको प्री फ्राइडे फिल्म कर सकते हैं. सर कैसे सर? He said अर्जुन रामपाल को ले आओ इस रोल के लिए और ये प्री फ्राइडे फिल्म है. Arjun was hot at that point. I mean, I'm sure he's hot now also, but he was hot property as actors are concerned at that point in time. So forget Arjun. I couldn't even get Arjun's manager's number. Like I was a documentary filmmaker from Delhi. There's no way I was. And actually, years later, I told Arjun this also. I said, it's so inaccessible to be able to reach actors. The only way you can meet sometimes is their managers, and they also complete job. So all this is happening now. The only studio in Bombay that I have not gone to because conventional wisdom tells me कि यशराज तो ऐसी फिल्में करता ही नहीं है, फायदा ही नहीं है. So that's the only studio I'm not trying to act. Anyway, how do you access Yashraj Studios? It's Aditya Chopra, the mythical Aditya Chopra. Anyway, the joke in the industry is that Aditya Chopra doesn't exist. It's just something Yash Chopra has created to scare people. So how do you access him? But unknown to me, there was my script had been taken by a friend of mine and been given to Adi because Adi at that point in time was looking for stories outside of his comfort zone. Stories that did not fit into the so-called Yashraj mold. So the script reached him, and out of the blue, I get a call from Yashraj, and this lady on the phone says, "I'm speaking from Yashraj Films, and Aditya Chopra wants to meet you." And I'm like, "Really?" I didn't take that call seriously. I thought somebody's, pulling a fast one on me. It's a prank because Mini's in MTV. All of them know the process I'm going through. There was a show in those days, which was very popular, called MTV Bakra. I said, "This is a bloody Bakra. They all know what I'm going through. Yeah, they're pulling my leg." So I'm like trying to be non-serious on that phone call. But something in the tone of that lady makes me think that, hey, maybe this is serious. I said, okay. I said, what time and when can I come and meet Aditya Chopra? She gives me a date and time. I said, ठीक है. I don't tell anybody because I don't want people to laugh at me. Aditya Chopra का तेरे को phone आया था. And I reached there on the date that was given to me. Fortunately, Brocha and a camera did not jump out of the bushes. They were not there. The gate opened. I walked into Yashraj studio and I was sent to this. It was their old office, and I was sent to the first floor office of Aditya Chopra. I opened the door, and I remember so distinctly that image. Adi was standing there and he was cleaning his reading glasses like this. And I opened the door. He saw me, and he says, "Hi, Kabir, I've read your script and it's really good. When can we make the film?" And that's it. That's how my first film with Yashraj started. Of course, the second thing he told me is, there's no way I can produce it in Afghanistan because I know you want to shoot this film only in Afghanistan. And that is actually something that used to make a lot of other producers think that koi pagal aa gaya hamare office mein because he bol raha Afghanistan mein shoot karega. So he said, "I can't produce it. Can you produce it?" So I said, yes, of course. I said, in terms of line production, Rajan and I have spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. We have a lot of friends. We have a network. We'll do it. And that's how it started. But then, of course, we landed up over there. We set up all the systems. We did the casting. We got everybody in place. We cast all actors according to the nationality of the characters. We got an American actor to, convince her to come to Afghanistan. I mean, she was, I think, half as mad as us to agree to come to Afghanistan. We got a brilliant actor from Pakistan to come and play the Taliban, who was based on Khalid, that guy I had met in my documentary days. And we landed up over there, and the shoot begins. But easier said than done. While the shoot begins, we become this very like a quirky, nice little story for the Western networks to do over there. So in the middle of all the serious stories that they're doing, they're saying, "Hey, Bollywood in Kabul." So they would come and cover us and take our interviews, and we would very happily be giving all these interviews. All these interviews and all these stories are being watched by Taliban, who by that time had dismantled and gone across the border, and now they're not very happy with this image going out that that Afghanistan is so normal that Bollywood is coming and shooting over there. So after 14 days of filming, firstly in these 14 days, an unprecedented thing happens. 3 suicide bombings take place in the course of those of those 14 days. Now, suicide bombings are very new to Kabul. Even the Taliban never used that. That was a very Al Qaeda thing that elements coming back from Iraq at that point had come to Afghanistan. So they happen. There's a state of alert and everything. Amito will remember the alert used to be. So Rajan and I used to be given an alert every evening. It was called the what's going to happen tomorrow, and the pink alert, contrary to what it suggests, the color, that was the most dangerous alert. So the pink alert was like suicide bombing alert. So you have to be careful. So on the 14th day, I get a call from the Indian embassy, and the ambassador sounding a little serious, and he says, "Can you come as soon as you finish to the embassy?" So he's sounding really serious. So we go, Rajan and I go, and he makes us sit down, and with him is the Indian military attaché. And he says, we've just got a very credible tip off from our own intelligence agencies, which has been corroborated by the Americans. 5 people have been sent across the border to attack your unit because they don't want the shooting to continue. Now, we froze. Like, he said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Yes, there's a sleeper cell in across the border, and we've intercepted radio messages, and basically they don't want the shooting to continue. And apparently 5 guys have already been dispatched because we were shooting extensively on the Kabul." Peshawar Road, the Kabul Jalalabad Peshawar Road, and apparently they were sending a lot of spies. I mean, Taliban is not a military unit, so they're just guys dressed up, and they were sitting on trucks and buses and observing our shoot going on over there. And I said, "Now what do we do?" And the military attaché, he smiled and he says, he said, "What did you expect? Did you expect that you would come and shoot in Afghanistan, as the first film ever to shoot in Afghanistan after Taliban, and all this will not happen?" He said, "This is going to happen. But don't worry, there are steps that can be taken." So the first thing we do, because on top of the list there were 4 names in the list, which was John, Arshad, me, and Rajan, and in detail they had described as to how and what they would do to us. So John and Arshad were put on the next plane and sent back to Bombay, and then we spent the next 5 days figuring out. We went about meeting, the security people, our own sort of military attaché. It was very helpful. God bless his soul, he actually got killed in a bomb blast months later in Kabul itself. But so we met the Ministry of Defense, the security minister, and when the security minister, so the Afghans suddenly took it upon themselves as an ego issue. They said, how can the Taliban dictate terms? Now we've thrown them out, and the last thing they wanted was this film shooting to end. So he comes to me, almost when I decided that we have to go back. And he says, "If you go back to Bombay tomorrow, it will be a defeat for Afghanistan." And I said, "I don't need that right now. I'm worried about my crew and their lives. This emotional baggage of, defeat for Afghanistan, something I cannot take." And then the military attaché, then he studied all the steps that these people were saying. And he said, "This kind of security that they're ready to give you is given not only to heads of state." So he said that if you want to continue, you can. And then there was this call from Adi, and I want to mention this because it's important, the role that a strong producer plays. And this is the only call, actually, in my 6 years and 3 films in Yash Raj, the only time Adi has ever called me on set was at this time in Kabul when this problem was happening. And he said, "Kabir, we all went into this film because of your vision, because of how you know Afghanistan. And now also everybody is there because they have confidence in you. So I am not going to take the decision. I want you to take the decision whether you want to continue shooting in Afghanistan or you want to come back. I just want you to know one thing. No film ever in the history of Yash Raj has ever stopped mid-production, and Kabul Express will not be the first one. So know this, that whatever it takes, we will recreate Kabul in any other country and complete your film. because I know it's your first film, all kinds of thoughts are going on in your mind, but just know this and then take a decision. And I think that was such a great thing for a producer to tell me that, because as a first time filmmaker, I could get selfish and say, screw it, let me risk the lives of others, at least I'll get my first film. And then finally, the military attaché said that go ahead. The next day, 60 armed commandos landed up outside our hotel. And our hotel was a 5-star hotel. Not 5-star in terms of luxury, because the stars in Kabul were not given according to luxury. They were given according to security settings. So did you have a rocket-proof wall? Did you have a bomb shelter? Did you have 20 feet high walls with electrified fencing? We had all that. So these guys landed up, and we would, travel to all these locations that are high up in the mountains. Buses, trucks could not go there. Only four-wheel drive SUVs could go. So when we would leave, there would be 35 SUVs spread out across a mile with guns sticking out of every window. And every morning, only two people who knew where we were going were Rajan and me, because we were told no call sheets. All production etiquettes had been thrown into the dustbin, and we would tell the driver, "Aaj idhar jana," and we would all land up over there, and we would reach these locations sometimes at 5, 6 in the morning. It was ridiculously cold because it was November, December, and on top of the mountains, we would see these silhouetted snipers who had been sitting all night to make sure that this place had become, safe and sound. And that's how we, finally managed to complete Kabul Express. I must say that if it wasn't for the people of Afghanistan, we would never have been able to complete Kabul Express. And I remember that minister coming to me and said, you see all these, commandos, you feel secure. I said, yeah, we're all feeling very, nice and safe. He says, all of them are doing nothing. So I said, what? He said, I have 5 layers of security for the next 5 kilometers in concentric circles around your crew. And that's how much, they wanted us to complete the film and continue there. So that's how my first film, Kabul Express, got made. I think, Raman, from here on, because the rest of the journey is slightly better known in terms of our films, should we make it more interactive? And
Sure. There are lots of questions that have come in. But I get priority to ask the first 3 or 4 questions, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just one very heavy-duty questions, and then my next 2 or 3 questions, very light-hearted questions. So my first heavy-duty question to you is, when you and Rajan were casting for Kabul Express, when you and Rajan were casting for Kabul Express, who did you think would play you, and who do you think would play Rajan?
So actually, we had that debate, and while I was writing, but you know what actually happened? Ultimately, it became a mix. It became a mix because Arshad became the cameraman, John became like the correspondent. So actually, I was like correspondent come cameraman, and Rajan was sound and like production. But so I gave little quirks to like. There's a quirk that Arshad has in the film where he refuses to part with his cigarettes. He has these gold flakes, and he says, and Afghans have this habit of coming and to start a conversation, they would like take a cigarette. Now Rajan used to hate it. He used to hide his cigarettes because he said, "Agar मैं gold flake के अलावा कुछ पीऊंगा तो मेरा गला खराब हो जाता है." So he would like hide his cigarettes, and that is something that I gave to Arshad. Though Arshad is actually the cameraman. So there were a lot of these mix and match that happened over there.
I thought you chose the guy who would spend more time on hair and makeup, but that's my version of it. Anyway, I needed to ask you this very seriously. There are 2 or 3 questions I'll throw to you, and then you'll go to the panel, and then lots of questions have come from young people. I didn't mean that the old panelists are not young. I'm sorry about that. There was a disillusionment at some point as a documentary filmmaker. Yes. When you suddenly decided that, I'm a little disillusioned. You were the guy who says news that was told to you and news that should have been told.
Yes.
Right? Now, you went through that period right after film school, after you joined Saeed Naqvi, and then suddenly one fine day, that little incident that took place with Khalid, you said, no, the gun, that incident saved my life. And I think the cinema is so far-reaching, and I'm going to make... So number one, the disillusionment I want to know that made you into a filmmaker from a documentary filmmaker.
Yes.
And 2, I just have to say that you have this penchant, like Dennis the Menace, who goes around looking for trouble. In Burma, you take the old forgotten army back over there and you're looking for trouble and you have house arrest and the barrel of the gun facing you. Khalid pointed the barrel of the gun. You go back to the same spot as the director with Arshad and John, and you recreate that scene, and again there was more trouble for you. So what is this whole idea? I mean, your wife never told you, Baba, mat jao, it's dangerous. Please don't go. My wife would never send me. My wife would never send me, though it's more dangerous in the house. That's another story altogether. But my wife would never send me. What's this whole idea of being gravitating towards danger? And let's talk about the disillusionment aspect of it.
Okay. So I'll start first with why I moved from documentaries to features, even though I must say that I was really enjoying making my documentaries and I was actually privileged. I was getting these international commissions. I was getting the kind of budgets to be able to travel to Afghanistan, make these films, really exciting documentaries that were being shown in several international networks, NHK of Japan, Canal Plus, all of them we were sending our documentaries to. But what set in the disillusionment, what made me feel a little incomplete was the fact, now you have to remember this is a time which is much before these OTT platforms. So what was happening was I was making these documentaries, but the space for documentaries was dwindling in India. There was, we would make these documentaries, we would get them and showcased in all the festivals, and we would send it to these international networks. But in India, nobody was watching them, and I feel, as a communicator, at the end of the day, what does one want to do? One wants to tell a story, get a feedback from the audience, be able to interact with them, figure out, and that was missing for me. I just felt that I'm telling these stories, but I don't know who's watching them. I'm not being able to interact with them. I'm not being able to get any feedback, any reactions. And then I realized slowly and slowly that the most powerful medium in this country is Bollywood, is mainstream cinema. I mean, that's a medium where I feel that if I want to tell stories and I wanted to really reach out far and wide, I think I should be able to tell stories on that format. And that's how my transition started from documentaries to features. Though absolutely steeped in my documentaries and all raw material for my features coming from my documentaries. Even till date, whether it's Kabul Express or whether it's New York or even 83. I mean, 83 also has. I made 83 because I could put together my documentary training and make that film. So there's a lot that I still draw upon from my documentary days. Secondly, to answer the question about how I, like Minnie says, how I choose every hellhole in the world to go and spend some time in, is I don't know. I get drawn towards conflict. I think because in my years as a documentary filmmaker, spending time in Kashmir, in Afghanistan, in Palestine, in Bosnia, these are all places I spend a lot of time in and meeting people. I just felt conflict makes people react differently. Conflict throws up, different behavior in people, which normally would remain maybe suppressed amongst people. But when you're in a conflict zone and your perspective on life is different, it just creates these more dramatic, more out of the ordinary reactions. And I would get sort of attracted to those kind of stories. And that's why you're right. I sort of ended up in a lot of these places which were potentially dangerous. Like John used to call me a suicide bomber. He said, "Tu suicide bomber hai. Tu hame bhi marega." But having said that, I don't think I was reckless. I have, yes, I have. I know. I can even tell you, accounts of where I think I was very close to death. Whether it's jumping off that helicopter and coming to. If that Mujahideen had a bad day, if he hadn't had breakfast, maybe he could have shot us before I could say I'm from Hindustan. I don't know. Or the landmines that I could have stepped on in Afghanistan. I remember in one of the documentary days I was traveling to an area and I saw this beautiful vista, and I said, okay, I want to take this photograph, go away from the road and take these vehicles going on the road. And I walked away without telling anybody. 100 feet away from the road, and suddenly the driver, I could hear him screaming and shouting, and I didn't know what he was saying because it was very windy. And then I heard him saying "Khatra e mine," and I realized I had actually walked into a landmine area, because Afghanistan with 10 million mines is the most densely. I mean, between Bosnia and Afghanistan, they're the two most densely mined countries in the world. I mean, the demining is still going on because it's really painstaking to take them out. And I was there, 100 feet away from the road, realizing that I'm in the middle of a landmine, a field full of landmines, and it was minus 19, Baman. I was sweating, and what saved me was it was loose mud, and I could very clearly see my footsteps, and I just completely and totally, literally retraced my footsteps and came out of that. So a lot of these things have happened, but I think there's also, with the more time you spend in these places, you also develop a certain sixth sense of this far and no more. And I think that's something that you have to really respect in the conflict zone. That I can push myself this far, and I don't think I can push beyond that, because if I go beyond this, it could be really terrible for me. And I think that line is something I never crossed, and therefore, in a certain sense, live to tell the tale.
Wow. Talking about travel and the 70 countries you mentioned that you travel, how's that travel happening for you today? Anyway, we'll go to the next question. I'll open it up, and I'll want Amar to get on it. AMMAR. Can Amar get online, please, and ask this very interesting question, I must say. Is Amar online? Can we get Amar online? Could he turn
Yeah,
on his
Bhuman
camera?
sir, we'll just
Put him in the spotlight.
see.
Put him in the spotlight, man.
Yeah, there's Amar, and yeah, go ahead, Amar.
Your own question.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
Hi.
So my question is that you've worked so extensively in these war-driven zones, and you've worked in Afghanistan and everything, like shooting documentaries. But your direction in photography, it shows that like it puts through a sense of calm in a person. It's not very bumpy. It's not very, what should I say? It's unlike war zones. So how do you change that thought process? What's the mentality? Does it change when you click and say document? Like when you are in a war zone, you're obviously not very calm. You are riding in cars, and the ride is bumpy.
Basically saying your documentary work is in complete contrast with your photography. I like the way he said it's not very bumpy.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. Of course, when you're shooting documentaries, you are primarily actually reacting to what's happening around you. And so obviously the way one shoots the documentaries, we are actually only reacting. There's nothing that I can plan and I can stage, and you literally looking around like a street photographer. Like a street photographer would walk the streets, right, and just hope to catch a moment unfolding in front of him or her and be able to capture that. That's exactly the way a documentary filmmaker, if I'm in Afghanistan, I'm walking around, I'm trying to see how is life changing here, and I'm going to try and catch human moments. And sometimes you hit a bonanza, where you just jump like that with your camera and just to try and shoot it. I like the first Buskashi game that happened in Kabul after the Taliban left. Now that's a bonanza for us, right? We were just walking around, and suddenly in the middle of nowhere, we see this game of Buskashi happening. Buskashi is, the Afghan game where they're sitting on their horses with this carcass of a sheep and pushing it around like polo. So that happens. You just jump in with your camera and you capture it as much, as best as you can. So you can't really plan. You can't really use a tripod. So it is going to be not. It's going to be very bumpy when you're shooting that. But if I was going to, shoot something where I can plan it, like in feature films, then it would definitely, I would, of course, I could then recreate that bumpiness, but I'll be deliberately doing that. Whereas in a documentary, it's inherently going to be part of the style. It's not something that I can control. It'll always be more bumpy.
Okay, thank you. Himanshu Gehlot would like to ask you a question. I think it's more a question about being motivated. And I think everyone at this point, at this stage in our lives, needs a little bit of motivation, let alone being a filmmaker who's not living in the times of these strange times. So Himanshu, if you can show us your face,
Sir, I think Himanshu Gehlot has dropped out maybe because of the bandwidth. If you could ask the question on his behalf.
How dare
the question? No, Bhuman, so the question actually came on email. So yeah.
Okay. Shall we ask it nevertheless? I think it's it's a question of someone who's so very successful, and you've traveled the road, you've taken the long haul to get where you have been. So sometimes it's so wonderful to hear from you if you can answer this. Many people want to tell a story through films, but not everyone gets the opportunity to complete it. This led to depression. This leads to depression in many young filmmakers like me. How do you motivate yourself in maintaining a positive vibe? Please tell us. It'll be greatly motivating. I think that's a sweet question. I think it deserves a nice answer.
I totally and completely identify with that. I understand, see, when we decide that we want to become filmmakers, when people like you or me, when we want to come out and we obviously don't have any established network in the industry, we need to be aware that we are treading down unknown path. It's not any other profession where if you have a certain education or if you have a certain degree, you'll get a job and then it'll be a gradual sort of promotion from one level to another level and it'll keep going. It won't. It'll be honestly, even today, I'm only as good as my last film. It can all come crashing down for me even today. And so you have to keep going. That as a filmmaker, you'll always continue that struggle. Yes, when you're starting out, for me, as I said, it took me about 3 years from writing, Kabul Forgotten Army, to then writing my second script, Kabul Express, to finally, it's starting about 3 to 4 years struggle. Now, yes, I understand for some people it can be even more than that. My only advice to people who are setting out is that, because I've come from a film school, I've seen a lot of young people do this. They suddenly, give up everything and one day and they say, "Ab main film banaunga," and then they give up their jobs. They give up what they're doing. They start writing the script and they start pushing this in. Now that process can be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, or 5 years. If you're not working, if you're not earning, professionally and doing something while you're going through that process, it's going to be deeply frustrating. It's going to lead to depression. It's going to lead to you making wrong choices, making compromises. That is something you must have. Your plan B should be in place parallel with pushing your film, because there's no guarantee. As I said, I told you my story. Maybe that script would not have gone to Aditya Chopra through my friend, and I would have still been trying to push Kabul Express. But the point is, if you still have a plan B going along, you'll never get that frustrated because you will at least be doing something you're interested in. And for I don't know what your background is, but if you say from a film school, if you have a technical skill, if you're a cinematographer, or if you are editor, or you can write, keep pushing that alongside while you're going around trying to get a producer for your film. So it's very important to make sure that you are protected financially while you're going through this struggle, and so that does not lead to these kind of depressions and feeling that it's end of the world. And at the same time, don't give up on your passion. Keep pushing for it. Keep pushing. It'll happen. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes people are lucky. It can happen in a couple of years too. Sometimes it can 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. I mean, Shekhar Kapoor was a chartered accountant before he gave up everything and became a filmmaker. So there are lots of these kind of stories. So just keep at it. But I would definitely say protect yourself financially while you're trying to push your film.
That's such an important question and such a very important answer, Kabir. It's because I think that frustration will build up more even now, and it's very important to say stick to your passion is very important. What you said, if I might add a penny or two to the answer, a lot of people say I work very hard to get a break in the film industry. I'm working so hard, and they burst out into tears. I said, what do you do? How do you work hard? I sit outside producer's office from morning to night every day, 30 days a month. I said, that's not hard work. Hard work is sharpening your skills. Spend time sharpening your skills, and then go and sit outside producers' offices. But don't spend your time just sitting outside producers' offices. Work really, really hard to sharpen your craft. I mean, I hope that made any sense to the youngsters out there. The next panelist, anyone from the panelists would like to go before we go back?
Sudeep wanted to ask a question.
Sudeep, of course.
Yeah, I want to ask something. Kabir has been Kabir. You've had a really fabulous long relationship with a cinematographer. Asim shoots all your films, and that's fabulous. That's fantastic to see such long-term collaborations. I'd like to ask you, what is the quality that you really look out for in a cinematographer, and what are the qualities that you hate in a cinematographer?
I think one why it started and why we had such a long relationship with Asim is I think to begin with, it was also comfort because I myself, being a cinematographer by training, I knew that I would always, try and say, let's, should we frame like this? Should the camera be here? Should the camera be there? And I knew that somebody who didn't know me, maybe from my film school days, could get irritated. Like a DOP could like turn around and say, like, do your job, let me do my job. I think Wasim, because he was, a year junior to me in film school, he also worked with Saeed Naqvi. We had a lot in common. And I realized when we were sort of working together, and we did actually a couple of ads before we did our first film, New York, together. I realized that we were on the same page aesthetically. So, like, chances are when we're looking at something, 9 times out of 10, we would say, okay, the camera should go here. So, I think that comfort is something that was very important when it began for me. Even in terms of Anshuman Mahale, who shot Kabul Express, he's also my junior from film school. So I think that was initially I thought I'd shoot Kabul Express myself because I thought I might not get the budget. So let me save those, 20, 30 lakhs that I might have to pay to a DOP at that point in time and shoot it myself. But fortunately, I got the budget and Anshuman shot it for me. So with Asim, definitely one was a comfort factor. Secondly, it was being from a documentary background, and initially in my films, I would also be very comfortable with source lighting. Like, okay, there's a source and we're getting the light from here, so we'll stick to this throughout the scene. We won't like if we're turning around and if it becomes backlight, we won't try and light it as if it's coming from here also. That was something that both Asim and I instinctively went for. I saw Asim sort of trying to do that very strongly in New York. And so it was something that I also appreciated. Then I think another thing which is very important for me, Sudeep, and that's something I think you know about me, is I need to, when I'm creatively collaborating with somebody, I just feel I need to be ideologically aligned with that person. I get very uncomfortable if I'm not ideologically aligned. It doesn't have to be something which is about the script, but about life and about things that really draws me to people. It draws me to actors. It draws me to technicians. It draws me to assistant directors. What is their view of life? Because at the end of the day,
Beautiful.
life is more important than what we're doing on that set, right? And so I think these are the combinations for me which are very important. Which I mean, sometimes people criticize me. Like I think Rajan tells me, he said, "ये गलत बात है. वो that guy is a right winger, तो उसको हटा देता है." So I said, "यार मुझसे नहीं होती बात उसके साथ यार. मैं नहीं काम कर सकता उसके साथ." So he says, "But he's damn good." I said, I know, but I have to, I'll be shooting with him for 8 hours, but if you're on location somewhere, I have to live with him for 50, 60 days. So I mean, I think that's a large part of how I gravitate towards people.
So before we go to the next panelist, you want to ask?
Hi,
Amito can
Kabir.
narrate more stories from Kabul than I can.
Oh yes, I have so many, and I can hopefully say that yes, thanks to Kabir and Rajan, I am here to speak today, because adding to their troubles, all the troubles that they were facing while they were making the film, here was one guy who found himself in Afghanistan and thought this was his Nat Geo moment. And somebody who had otherwise shot posters for other Hindi films and advertising campaigns and far removed from the real world. So I thought to myself, here's my Nat Geo moment. And I was doing something where if it had not been for Kabir and Rajan, who spotted what was going on from a distance, I would probably have been locked up somewhere so deep inside that we wouldn't be here today. So, however, I remember my first meeting with Kabir was an evening where he was showing some images, a slideshow of images. And I was mesmerized. I said, here is someone who has seen so much of the world. And I so clearly remember that image of the tank and the kids swinging. And I said, this guy has been to places like this. Where are we living? What world are we living in? We have no exposure to anything like this. And I said, but he doesn't look, he was wearing a powder blue colored shirt and blue jeans, clean shaven, good looking man. I couldn't place the two things together. But then I thought to myself, I said, even Tintin wasn't like that, but Tintin did exactly the same thing. So in my head, I've always called Kabir Tintin. Having come to all that, Kabir, this is a question that I have for you. It's mainly for other listeners. I have been privy to listening to the story of how you retrace the steps of the Forgotten Army. And that little incident that really stayed with me is when you were entering Burma and what happened at the immigration. I wish you can tell people that, so that, it's such a small thing, but it's so important to those people getting into
the visa one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is, so Dhillon Saab, like Colonel Gurbakh Singh Dhillon, he is one of the sort of principal commanders of Netaji's Azad Hind Fauj. And after, he got captured, he went through the Red Fort trials, finally got acquitted. Then, after independence, tried to get back to Burma, couldn't, all kinds of problems in those days. International travel was difficult. They didn't have any money, got frustrated. Finally, he went into self-imposed exile in Shivpuri in Madhya Pradesh. And finally, 55 years later, this 26-year-old guy comes to him and said, Dhillon Saab, aap Burma chalenge? So he said, it's a pagal aadmi hai. Anyway, he agrees to come with us. We go to Burma and we're at the immigration. And the sort of one usual question that the immigration officials have you been to Burma before? And he says, yes. And he says, oh, where is visa? And he says, no visa. He says, how no visa? You've been to Burma before? He says, yes. Where is visa? he says it was in fucking 1943 in the World War II.
My
So I
God.
just couldn't understand what the hell is happening. And then it became a issue, and then we had to come in and to explain that is when you get into that was something which
God, it
was
must
such
have
a
been,
moment.
oof.
Yeah. How do
It
you
stayed
explain
with
to
me
these
over
guys?
some, I don't know, 17, 18 years
Yeah.
since I first heard it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Tintin.
Tintin. So, Tintin Saab, there's a young lady called Shweta BK. Can we have her online, or is it an email question?
No, Shweta should be there.
Okay, Shweta, would you like to ask the question yourself?
No, I think she's not on the call now.
Okay. Tarun, go ahead. Tarun.
Hi, Kabir. I'm saying that your journey is absolutely fantastic, and the way you explain everything is so beautiful. I just want to ask you. You said something about you like working with people, those who have the similar kind of ideology, or those who believe in similar kind of thought process, and that drives you to make things or whatever you're doing, and get the people for the casting. Now, what is that incident, or why did you write this story, The Forgotten Army? I'm saying, what drove you to that thing? Was it something which was coming from inside, or because it's not like a Bollywood story? And how much is it documentary driven? Is it documentary driven, or is it real or fictional, or how is it like?
So actually, why I got attracted to Forgotten Army, honestly, Tarun, is because of just this moment that Amito spoke about, the moment that I spoke to you about, discovering that cave, or there were moments when we went to the famous river Iravati, and the Battle of Iravati has gone down in history as the longest opposed river crossing in any theater of World War II. And it goes down in history as a battle between the Japanese Imperial Army and Lord Mountbatten's army coming in. But actually, it was a battle between the British Army and 400 soldiers of the Azad Hind Fauj. And the Azad Hind Fauj soldiers were actually trying to project that they were Japanese Imperial Army, because he said Mountbatten wouldn't have waited for a day. He would have just sent his armies across Iravati if he knew just 400. But for some through very chance ambushes and battles, they managed to keep them at bay for more than 20 days. Now, Dhillon Saab was a commander of that battle, and after 55 years, he comes back to that point. And imagine him coming back to that place, and he said he lost like almost 90% of his men in that Iravati battle. And he comes and he's walking around that river and he's saying, this is where my first machine gun was. And that hill was where my second machine gun was. And this is where the boats came from. I mean, these are the kind of moments where I was like, I'm so privileged at that age to be able to witness this. I was basically witnessing history, and I was being told history by those who made history. You know, so I just felt it in a certain sense, it became a sacred story for me. It became a sacred mission for me. I said, if I don't take this story out in a larger way to the rest of the world, then I feel that I'll let them down. It was almost like a promise I'd made to Dhilan Saab and Lakshmi Sehgal that one day I will push this story out to a larger audience. And that's why it was my burning desire to do Forgotten Army. And kept, I mean, and that fire kept going for 20 years till I finally made it.
No, how could it not?
And
also, what a backdrop.
I really wanted to tell you that, you know, in a, you won't know, but I don't know whether you know about this or not, but I got involved in your movie in a certain way that Ranveer called me up when he was in Delhi with living with Kapil Dev, and he said, you know, you have to shoot me while, because I'm understanding mannerism from him, like how he talks to his wife, how he talks to his servants, and he spent some good couple of days with him, and then one of the days he called me to all of them together. So I did that shooting for him, which he said that he'll keep those prints in his house to remember that how things were happening for the movie. That's the kind of method actor he is. So
that's another amazing story
in the movie in a certain way.
No, again, I mean, 83 is also again one of those stories where you know, I feel sometimes stories choose people. It's not like I'm choosing Forgotten Army and I'm choosing 83. I really feel when it comes to stories like Forgotten Army and like 83, they chose me. I mean, come on, these are stories that have been sitting in front of us for years and decades. Like, who doesn't know about 83? Why did it wait for somebody like me to happen? It could have gone to anybody. Anybody could have put it together, right? But I don't know why. I mean, I'm just so privileged and lucky that it came to me, and I got an opportunity to narrate this most incredible story that has happened in post-independent India.
Yeah, and what a backdrop it had.
My takeaway for today's interview: stories choose you. Beautiful. That's mind blowing. That's mind blowing.
Arun, आज तूने रुलाया नहीं किसको? Thank you. We are very grateful to you.
खराब reputation हो गई अब मेरी.
Yeah, but that's great. And talking about, you know, a little more, because you said you were judged by your last film. Not really, actually, Kabir. We don't. But your last film actually is 83, which I have kind of seen, and I can assure you that judgment will be the greatest judgment day of all. Tell us about the making of 83. Tell us more about how it chose you, and apart from how it chose you, just the making of it and how you went about processing it, even as a documentary filmmaker, how you processed all of it.
So, you know, actually, I was probably the most unlikely person to get 83 because I'm actually not a cricket fanatic. Of course, like all Indians, I follow cricket, we watch cricket, but I'm not one of those ki test cricket or to 5 din baith gaya every, you know, like some other player, like Rajan, my thing, he like, Zimbabwe is playing Australia, he'll watch the whole match. I'm saying, kya lena dena yaar, chhodna aage, but I'm not at all, you know, one of those cricket buffs. So I'm saying, you know, some material comes to me, and it was not really a script. There was material on 83. Now we all know about it. Okay, everybody who's above the age of 40 knows a lot of details about what happened in 83. So that material comes to me, and it's lying on my table actually for several days before I pick it up. And I'm thinking, okay, is it about cricket? Am I really the right person to do it or not? And then I think to myself, I said, okay, maybe I am the best person for this because I'll never get swayed by the cricket. Let me see, is there a human story there or not? And I pick up this material, and I'm calling it material. I'm not calling it a screenplay because, you know, much work went into it later when we got the real stories from there. And I read it for the next 2 hours. And by the end of that, I had a lump in my throat. And I'm asking myself, why do I have this lump in my throat? What is it that has made me, like, moved me so much? And I again go through the story and I realize it's not the cricket. It's the human story. It's the story of these bunch of boys. I call them a bunch of boys because most of them were in their 20s. Kapil was 24, Srikanth was 22, Ravi Shastri was 20. I said it's the story of these bunch of boys who nobody believed in. They themselves didn't believe in themselves, and they just landed there and how they pulled each other to that position of greatness. And I said you could replace the cricket with kabaddi. The story still stands. And that's what pulled me to 83, and I just dived into it. After that, I said, okay, and the other thing that I discovered, much to my surprise, as much as people know and talk about, and everybody has their one story about 83, there's not much written and documented about it. There is no that one definitive book about it. There is no account that you can take and say, okay, now I've got the story. I realize there's so much of primary research that will go into this film. So apart from spending hours and hours with, Kapil Dev and all the other, Jimmy Amarnath, Madan Lal, all the other players of 83, I took all my documentary training and my documentary style of putting research systems into place. And I will keep going to London. I went through all the newspapers, all the magazines. I went to Lord's, and I was very nervous about that because Lord's is, always considered to be a little snooty. I didn't know how they'll react. I went to them. I explained the stories to them. Actually, Lord's jumped at it. They said, wow, this is such a true blue celebration of cricket, and the climax, the finale happened here, so we will definitely support you. And they opened up their doors, they opened up their archives, they opened up their library, they opened up all access to me. And that's how we started building the story. Suddenly we would hear something and say, okay, this happened. Now, this happened 35 years ago. I'm sure the person in this incident must be still around. So then we would drive to Southall. We would try and find out, hey, what happened to those? There were these accounts of these Bhangra boys. Now, this is a gang called the Great Indian Dancers. We say, okay, the gang doesn't exist, but the people do. So we went and discovered the Great Indian Bhangra. We got two guys, Kulwant Singh Toor and Gill, and they suddenly come out and they are full of stories. And now they're giving us a bird's eye view because Kapil Dev and Madan Lal and Kirmani are only giving me the story of what's happening in the field or with them in the locker room. Now, who's going to give me the story of what's happening in the stands? What was happening outside the stands? Who was fighting the skinheads when India was winning against England? The players had no idea of all this is happening. So there was so much of this that we had to put together, and the process, it was the most enjoyable research process. And 83, truly, I mean, I know before the release of a film, every director talks about their film like this, but 83 is again one of those sacred stories. And I'm so glad that it chose me.
Oh, wow, Kabir. I want to say something.
Wow.
You fooled me, Kabir. You fooled me because when we had the first meeting in Marriott and you were telling me, things, I just thought that you were a film buff. I didn't know. This is the first time I've come to know that you are not quite the film fanatic. And I was so thrilled with the research that was done, but that's all your documentary work, actually. But just goes to prove, I think, Kabir, it's a testament of how you may have handled with such dignity the way that you represented not just Bollywood, but even India and the cricketing world of India. That Lord's, I was there that day, Kabir, the way they opened up Lord's for us and you. Yeah. And I so much so they allowed me to do a photo shoot over there. Yeah, मैं तो मजे ले रहा था वहाँ पे. मैं photo shoot ले रहा हूँ. The Majid, the photographer, went. We had such a wonderful time. I'm so grateful. We're just enjoying ourselves. But the point I'm coming to, tell us about the balcony scene. I was there. I came that day and I was there, and there was a photograph that we finally got in black and white of Kapil Dev getting the World Cup, the handover. And we had a visitor, most unusual, serendipitous occasion where we had a visitor, not me, a very, very important visitor who just happened to be there. And he came and he was watching himself picking up the runner-up trophy. Could you tell us that and how emotional it was for all of us? Ranveer, we were standing at the balcony after this shot that we did, which I wanted very badly, this shot. If you could make that full screen for everybody. We went and then you told us so tell us about that moment.
So that was again one of those, one of those magical moments that kept happening. As I said, 83, 83 is a film that we shot for like 100 days in England, and not one day did we get washed out by rain. Can you imagine? The World Cup matches which are happening while we were shooting got washed out by rain. We did not get washed out by rain. So I often said we are blessed by the gods of cricket, and those gods of cricket would often come and sit on our set. We would have, apart from Kapil Dev, Jimmy Amarnath, Sunil Gavaskar coming and sitting, we started getting people like Viv Richards, Gordon Greenwich. These are people who come and just sit on our set and say, okay, that guy's playing me. Okay, then also there are certain, the sons of these legends were were portraying their father. So Malcolm Marshall's son, Mali Marshall, is actually portraying his father. We brought them down. These are all first-class cricketers. We brought them down. We went through this whole training period. Very interesting thing happened in the training period also, because I bring down a Mali Marshall who's bowls exactly like his father, not as fast, but he bowls, his action is exactly like that. And I bring him to Lords, and then I introduce him to our players. Now, our players are all actors who have trained for 6 months to become cricketers. The other guys are all cricketers who I'm training to act a little bit. Now, I bring him and I said, I know all your life you've trained to bowl at the wickets, and your muscles and your muscle memory will make you bowl at the wicket. But brother, you can't bowl at the wicket because it'll kill my actor. So please bowl wide. So I'm training them now all to bowl wide of the leg stump. The first day, Mali Marshall comes and he knows, he has told him, okay, boy, he says, yes, I'll do that. Yes, yes, man, I'll do that. Yes, man, I'll do that. But his muscle memory takes over and the ball goes straight for my Dilip Vengsarkar's head, which if the 6 months of training had not happened, he would not have been able to remove his face from there and he would have been headless. So all these kind of, incidents are happening. We're trying to put all these guys together. But I think by far the most emotional moment was the moment that Baman is talking about. It was, I think, the 4th or the 5th day that we were shooting at Lords, the last day, and we were shooting the finale where Kapil Dev picks up the Prudential World Cup, and we're sitting there, and who comes rolling in? We come, Mr. Clive Lloyd, captain of West Indies, comes in, and he says, "I want to see this shoot, man." And of course, his son is also playing. His son is playing Joel Garner because his son is 6 feet 8 inches and he's a fast bowler. So his son is playing Joel Garner in the film. So he comes and he sits, and we are replicating to the T the photographs, the footage that is there of this award ceremony, so that looks exactly the way it was. And we're putting everybody into place. We got him there, we got the couple there and everything. And I tell Clive Lloyd, I tell him, he was sitting a little far away. I said, "So why didn't you come here? You can come right next to the camera." And he looks at me and says, "Why? You want me to see that cup going away for the second time, do you?" He said, "I don't want to see it going away for the second time. I'm sitting here." Then, when we're about to roll, this is again talking about how gracious Lords was. These two ladies with white gloves come, roll in a cart, and they remove that cloth, and they take out the real Prudential World Cup, and they said, "We want you to film with this." And this is after our, I've done all this, that the rehearsals have happened, and I just grab that, and I go and I give it to Ranveer, and Ranveer doesn't know. He says, "What?" He said, "This is the cup. This is the real World Cup," because he had a replica there. He's looking at it, and I say, "Okay, now give it there." And I said, "Okay, and action." And he's in a daze. Everybody's in a daze. That whole thing happens. Exact replication how people's position was. He comes, he takes that thing. That chat is happening. He turns it around. He goes towards the teammate, and I say, "Cut!" And Ranveer just breaks down like he bawls. He said, "So this is too overwhelming. I'm not being able to handle this." And then the whole team gets into a huddle, and literally they cry like little boys, including
wow,
because it was just too overwhelming.
Wow,
what a lovely story, man! Oh, I've got the strangest request. I'm not going to say from who, but it's quite brazen. It's quite bold, and it says, "Can we see the 83 trailer?"
Yeah. You wish. No, unfortunately, we're going to keep it close to our hearts, and you will see it soon. When all of us are healthy and happy to get back, we'll all see it.
Okay, maybe someone on the panel, and then we'll close this. Unfortunately, we'll have to close it. Someone on the panel. Any last question? Yeah, Raj. Raj. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, Raj. Go ahead.
Okay. Kabir, thank you so much. What a lovely talk. I've always enjoyed the bridge that you walk on, and after today's talk, I think I appreciate the nuances behind that a lot more.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, what was the kind of unlearning required for you when you expanded your canvas from this gritty, realistic documentary space to go into a more mainstream filmmaking space? Also, to add to that thought, all your features, all your movies, some more than others, have a seed of contemporary or historic reality in your movie. And yet you are mounting a scale and grandeur now with people like Salman and Katrina and of course Ranveer, which is a very different world. what continues to attract you to these very disparate worlds, and what are the challenges of mixing them?
Nice. So there was a lot of, I don't know whether it's unlearning. I don't think I was trying to go through a process of unlearning, because I feel whatever I had acquired through documentaries was slowly going to become my strength. But there was a lot of new things to get used to. First, it was just the whole, I must say, honestly, what used to throw me off initially was just the number of people required on a film set. And since both me and Rajan have come on from a documentary background, still pretty recent. I think, in fact, the last time we had this conversation was on the set of Bajrangi Bhaijan, where I always sit with him, and because he's the executive producer, so he's in charge of the people. And I've often asked, I said, कि इतने लोग इस set पे क्यों हैं? And he just gave me always, he says, अच्छा, you point out who, and I'll tell you why. And I'll say, अच्छा, वो क्यों है set पे? Then you'd say, नहीं, वो ये है, उसके बिना ये नहीं होगा, तो ये नहीं. I said, अच्छा, ठीक है, ये क्यों है? So I honestly, because of my documentary background, it took me a long time to understand कि इतनी बड़ी बारात क्यों जाती है. मतलब शॉट लेना है, कैमरा आ गया, 2 एक्टर आ गए, अब शॉट लेते हैं, नहीं, उसमें और 40 लोग इधर हैं, 50 लोग इधर हैं. So that took me a long time.
Right.
Then it took me a long time to get used to the amount of money that is spent. You know, I'm a middle class boy. I used to get daunted. यार कोई कह रहा है, you know, इस पे इतने करोड़ खर्चेंगे, your film is 100 crores, and I'm like saying, oh shit, that's a lot of money, yeah. And why is that kind of money being spent? So I would always try cross-checking, is the money being spent correctly, not. But fortunately, my Yashraj training helped me come to terms with it, because I realized Yashraj, they only spend if it's going on the screen and not sort of coming, you know, for paraphernalia that is not coming onto the screen. So that was another thing that it took me time to get used to it. And one very interesting thing is the learning that you don't need to do everything. That took me a very long, coming from documentaries. It's you, your camera, your guys doing sound, you running around, you doing everything. Then in films, I realized I was limiting myself. Like if I would imagine an action scene, I would only imagine it if I can execute it myself. So I was limiting myself, because I have limited knowledge of how to execute an action scene. So I'm saying, हाँ ऐसे होगा, ऐसे कर लेते हैं. But अगर उसको बिल्डिंग के ऊपर से कूद के स्विमिंग पूल में गिरना है, शिट, ये कैसे होगा? अरे यार, ये नहीं करते हैं, ये लिखता ही नहीं हूँ मैं. So that was something I learned actually in Ekta Tiger, which was my first true blue action film, where I learned how to collaborate with, you know, masters of their craft, who would, you know, come and say, and I could just say, I want to jump off that building and fall into the swimming pool. Then it's not my you know, problem how you figure that out. You figure it out how that happened. So that took me a long time to come to terms with, okay, you know, that this is how it's going to happen. Figure out, you know, that every department bring in a lot. You know, I would jump into costumes, I would jump into production design. Again, documentary training, right? Getting into things that you're not supposed to get into and making life miserable for the others. Learning how to trust the HODs. It takes also time to, you know, work with. And I'm somebody who's, if I like somebody's work, I tend to always repeat them. So in my film, if you check, you know, the credits, then you'll always see lots of people being repeated, because I'm comfortable now. We understand each other's aesthetic sensibilities, and it goes over. So I think these 3-4 things for me were probably, you know, the processes that took me time to get used
to. Kabir, I'd like to say this. It's so that's a great observation to say. इतने बारात जैसे लोग क्यों आते हैं सेट पे? लेकिन when बारात जैसे लोग पिक्चर देखने जाते हैं, वो तो अब आपको कोई that's okay. Having said that, I think it was marvelous. I'm going to wrap this up by saying, before I hand it over to Devang, the first thing I ever said while introducing this very, very kind gentleman who speaks with such warmth and sensitivity. It hasn't changed at all from the first time I met him to the time maybe we went to Lord's, and that's why Lord's rolled out their famous red carpet for all of us. And we are grateful for you being a great ambassador for all of us. I'm repeating that for youngsters to listen to. You can be a great filmmaker, you may have the greatest talent, but at the end of the day, it's how you deal with people that will make you do bigger and better work. And then you exemplify that for all of us, Kabir Khan.
Thank you, Mama. That's so sweet.
I genuinely mean that. Gentlemanliness goes a long way in shaping careers. I truly believe that. And apart from that, Kabir, It was actually an honor working with you the other day. I really would have killed you had you not cast me in that film. You would have been in trouble worse than Khalid pointing a Kalashnikov. Believe me. But I'll close this wonderful journey of an intrepid artist, an intrepid soul. And today you made us our hearts, and especially when you spoke about certain stories, we felt intrepid because we became adventurous just listening to you. I'm not a very adventurous person, but thank you. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much. It was lovely. I had a great time.
Thank you. I'm so glad. So Devang, over to you and your fine closing words. As always, we look forward to it.
You putting me on a spot. No, I think it's been a wonderful session. I think I still would want to check with Sudeep and Amit if you want to say something, because we really can't thank you enough for getting Kabir here.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, now can I be heard? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yeah, so I repeat myself again that Kabir made an indelible impression the very first day I met him, and I remember once, a little after things had become a little more familiar between the two of us, repeated meetings at Arshad's home. I told him, I said, if you ever go back to Kabul, please take me there with you, no matter what. I will do whatever it takes. I would love to be a part of that journey with you. And yes, it was a completely life-changing, life-altering journey for me. I saw the other side of the world, and so many of our problems that we have are like out of films. They're self-created. We don't have any of those problems. We don't have landmines. In fact, somebody played a prank on us. Arshad and I were walking down somewhere there, and I think it was Rajan. Suddenly Rajan shouts out and says, Arshad, Amit, don't move. And like Kabir said, it was minus 19 and we broke into a sweat. We were in the middle of a landmine, and Arshad and I didn't know what to do. We just stood there frozen, and it was crazy. And then they all started laughing after 2 minutes. We weren't in a, we didn't even care to look around whether they had these markers for demined zones and zones that were demined and zones that were not. We didn't even check for that. We just broke into a cold sweat. That is the kind of places, that is just one of the places that I have been to. And Kabir has, in his first 28 years, I'm guessing, he had been to all these places. Incredible. What a host of stories he has in his head. And he's a wonderful, wonderful person. Thank you, Kabir, for sharing this lovely journey. And what a lovely time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Swapan and Dinesh, please go ahead. Dinesh, please.
Sudeep.
No, just thank you, Kabir. Some of the stories I've heard otherwise, but
you have.
You're wonderful that it was shared, and I mean, Kabir, of course, brings in a certain kind of sensibility into mainstream commercial. That's the best part. That his documentary experience and that sensibility, he's so beautifully putting it out in the mainstream format, and that it's brought a lot of respectability to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sudeep. That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
Dinesh, Swapan, please go ahead.
Yeah, Kabir, like I said, I feel that I know a part of you through Amito, and you know how special Amito is, and what he is now is exactly the way he explains, those incidents in Kabul. But I have two things. I don't think there are any questions. They're just observations, because I think, I think you have a memory of an elephant. You remember every detail, every single detail, and I was just so mesmerized by that, man. I mean, you didn't have to, I didn't hear a single it was just boom, boom. You could take names, you could retract your steps, years back. And that I think is amazing. That can only come from passion. And the second thing, which I think is most important, I think probably, maybe younger filmmakers and photographers need to know, and I think you can't emphasize it more, that, I feel you've got these 20-kilo weights on your feet. and you're so grounded and so beautiful after being and doing what you have and what you've achieved. It's amazing, and I know it's coming from a real genuine space, and it's wonderful to see another human being so beautifully grounded in a space which could, like Berman had said the other day, if you get so much success, it can just throw you off the chart, and it can go to your head. And it's just unbelievable, how grounded and beautiful your journey has been, and the way you've
That's so
explained
sweet.
it. And I'm really moved by that most, and of course all the other things you said. But I think it's fabulous to see such a wonderful human being.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now I'm getting overwhelmed.
Khanna sahab, boliye.
कबीर, thank you so much for this wonderful story. एक चीज मेरे जहन में आई, आपने कहा था कि 9/11 के बाद that is really what set you up. That's what made you kind of person you are and the kind of filmmaker you are thereafter. We're sitting in second most important, I would say, life-altering situation with this pandemic. I'm not saying you're a soothsayer. I'm not saying you need to forecast what's going to happen here. But as a filmmaker, what do you think, or as a storyteller, what do you think the future is going to be? What of this would you take forward with you?
I mean, that's actually really a tough question, because, we are all right now at some stage of this playing out, and we really don't know at what stage are we. Are we in the middle of it? Are we right in the beginning part of it? We're definitely not towards the end of it. So I think, this is something that I don't think any of us had ever imagined that we will live through in our lifetime. I think we had this innate confidence of man's achievement in medicine and technology, and how could it happen to us in 2020, right? There's nothing that can bring humanity to its knees in 2020. And suddenly we've been slapped across our face and made to realize that we are insignificant. We are absolutely insignificant. It's a little virus that has brought the entire planet to a grinding halt. And that's definitely going to change the way we're going to live our lives from here on. So, I'm myself, I think I'm just going to observe and see how this ultimately changes all of us, because that it definitely is going. It's definitely going to change us. It's going to definitely change the way we look at things. I would like to believe, maybe as an optimist, I have a feeling that people will have more empathy after this entire experience. I have a feeling that we will all value certain things a little more, maybe not pay attention to certain things that we were, because it does, in one stroke, make you realize how small you are in the larger scheme of things. These grand plans of I'll have the largest premiere ever for 83 years. It just comes to a grinding halt. Hey, guys, sit, wait. You will be lucky if you can even get your film out in a year. So, I mean, it's I think puts things into perspective. So, I mean, that is something that I am trying to see the positive sides of this, because I think that's the only way to go forward. And counting whatever little blessings we have, the fact that, we can be at home, I'm spending time with my children, being able to do photography, though I'm all the time only shooting my dog, but at least I'm getting to practice. So really don't know how it's going to pan out. But I think we all have to just sit, wait, and see what's in store for humankind.
So true.
And maybe after all this is done, I mean, it's all, and everything, normalcy returns. Do you think there should be floating an idea like maybe once a year for 7 days, humanity should have a compulsory lockdown?
Sure.
And
the planet needs it.
Yeah,
we've seen. It's amazing how in 5 days we could see things happening. I still don't know whether those photographs from Jalandhar are true or not, but if they are mind-boggling to be able to stand on a roof in Jalandhar and see the Himalayas. I mean,
you can see blue sky in Gurgaon, which is as unbelievable.
So I think the planet definitely needs this reboot. I'm just dreading how fast we'll actually, wipe this benefit out. I think it'll take us 5 days to wipe out all the benefits.
You bet.
Back in a vengeance.
I'd like to, sorry.
No, I'm just saying, I think it's really something that we have to really sit and wait. We really don't know when this all is going to ultimately come to.
I'd like to just, what Swapan said. What Swapan said, two things. You say you have a memory of an elephant and you've got 20 kilos on your feet. I'm just trying to wind this up again in the nicest way possible. But I'll tell you that there is an explanation for it, Swapan. It's got to do with that line mine that he walked into. And if you look at it, he turned around and he saw his own footsteps with such humility that it saved his life, and he can walk back. So the memory comes by just looking at your footsteps.
Yeah.
Go back, and
Lovely.
and you're set for life.
Oh,
That's so
Lovely,
well said.
lovely.
Set for life. So
Let's all go back to film.
let's all go back to film. Yeah. Devang, all yours, brother.
Yeah, and this time I won't won't dilute the whole sense of this amazing talk that you have delivered, Kabir. The one thing which I would just like to say, these past 20-25 days, and we've had these amazing set of speakers who've become our panelists, and then they have gone on to become our friends and more like family, and we kind of have this incredible bond that has happened between everyone. And you might just have got a glimpse of it, but there was one thing which you said which actually has sewn the entire series for us, and you said this about 1983, that it's not just a story, it's actually a human story. And that is exactly what we have heard in this entire series. And we've had this incredible experience of hearing these incredible, amazing, truly human stories from all our speakers and all our panelists. And so thank you to you for bringing out that element in your speech, and kind of sewing this thread for us further. Uncanny. So
Thank
brilliant.
you, Devan.
And I think there were at least another 24 questions for you, by the way. And none of them asking when is 1983 coming out, but we would definitely share these questions over to you by email, and you would probably love to go through these and at a little bit of time. For today, once again, thank you, Kabir, thank you, Sudeep, and thank you, Amito, for getting Kabir to come and speak here. And thank you, Boman sir, so much. I mean, we've been missing you last 3-4 days. I don't know. I'm sure you've not been in the right space of things, but thank you so much for coming back. And yeah, you were awesome as again. Just quickly to share what we have in store tomorrow. And yeah,
Konkana, wow.
That's for all of you tomorrow. Konkana is gonna once again share her lovely stories about her journey through the world of filmmaking and cinematography and direction. And that is then going to be followed by our rest of the series. And here it is. So as you can see, we have got a pretty decent lineup for the next week of lockdown as well. And I'm not just going to take all the names, but Ivan Ban, I think that's going to be another interesting session for all of us here, because we are going to see a completely different perspective. It's going to be from architectural world. So we are so looking forward to it. All right, with that, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you to Kabir. There is one thing I want to say. This is from Aniket Malhotra, and he's just put a message, and I don't think it would be just if I don't read this out. And he says, I have tears in my eyes, but thank you is all I can say.
Oh, wow.
Please pass this message to Kabir sir.
Wow.
So, thank you, Aniket. Thank you, Aniket. That's so sweet of you.
That's so much how it shows how much we have all enjoyed this entire session with you. It's been so amazing, so lovely. And Amit still wants to say something. Yes, Amito, please.
Yeah, I have so many stories. I mean, it's unbelievable how many stories there are. But yeah, if time permits, I can tell you what happened there. So there was this wonderful palace that Kabir spoke about. It's called the Darul Aman Palace of Kabul, and it's beautifully backdropped by the snow-capped mountains. And to a novice like me, somebody like me who's been there for the first time, I just think I'm wearing a Nat Geo jacket with one camera in my hand. And I was standing at one point. I'd ventured out a little further from where the unit was filming, closer to the Darul Aman Palace, and I was watching these armored cars go past. And these armored cars and the backdrop of this palace up on a hillock, and it's a bombed out palace, completely bombed palace. So I thought, there's a picture here that I can take back and say that, oh, this was my Nat Geo moment. I was standing there shooting when suddenly one of the armored car convoys came and stopped there. And these guys, these 6 foot something soldiers jumped out of it. And before I knew
the US Marines came.
The US Marines, they were, those guys particularly were Canadians, if I'm not wrong.
Canadian.
Yeah. So I had 2 people on either side of me with their hands under my armpits, lifted me off the ground, and they started walking me towards the armored car. And I'm like, with my legs flailing, I said, oh, excuse me, where are we going? Stupid question to ask. Where are we going? So they said nothing, and they took me to the commander who was sitting atop the armored car. And he said, so what are you doing here? I said, I'm part of a film crew, which is filming a little distance down. And they were a speck from where I was. You could see them as a small speck. So they're filming down there. And yes, but we have no intimation of any permissions. So I said, permissions? Of course, we have all the permissions. If you allow me, I can call them, and yeah, they have all the necessary permission. But they don't have our permission. I said, I'm sure they have all the necessary permission. If you allow me, you can call them. No, you stand here. Then he puts his hand back and somebody gives him a camera and he says, can I take a picture of you? So I said, sure. He took a picture of me without breaking eye contact. He handed the camera back to the person, and all those English films that I'd seen and stories that I'd heard made me realize कि अच्छा अब तो इसको मेरी चड्डी का कलर भी पता है यार, सब कुछ पता है मेरे बारे में. So I may as well stand there with a brave front. And then he asked me, you speak English, where are you from? I said, I'm from India. And as all this was going on, I think somebody from the unit, maybe Rajan, somebody spotted us, and they jumped into a car and rushed here. And as they rushed here, and they, with the local location person, or, whoever the location coordinator there was, they came and they started speaking to these guys with all the permissions and everything they were showing them. So I stepped back, and the stupid romantic thought of Nat Geo photographer came out again. And without looking at my camera, which was slung down closer to my waist, I just pointed it up and I started shooting. And then I would look down to see if my wide angle lens is, directed correctly. And then I was shooting from the hip. I looked up, and one of the soldiers on the armored car was looking right back at me. And he made eye contact and he told his commander. His commander said, come here. And I shat. I walked up to him and I had that, schoolboy thing, like slightly, those schoolboys who are defiant. I said, no, I wasn't shooting. Not at all. See, my camera is off. And it was on. And I thought he was stupid. He knew exactly what I was doing. And he said, once more you try this stunt. And he stopped. I didn't take a picture after that. I still have some of those images. I can laugh about the story today. But thank you, Kabir, for bailing us out of that. I won't be back. But the most life-changing experience. I give this as an example to anybody who tells me that, oh, my life में ये problem है, ये नहीं हो रहा है. I said, chill. कोई problem नहीं है. तू अफगानिस्तान में नहीं पैदा हुआ. तेरे यहाँ landmines नहीं है यार. Remember that hospital every day we used to pass by, जहाँ पे बाहर bench लगा रहता था यार, and somebody with no arm, no leg. This is their daily life. This is every day. A kid knows how to hold a Kalashnikov. I couldn't hold a Kalashnikov when it came into my hands. I wanted a selfie with it. and I looked so stupid holding a AK-47. But every kid there holds it like he was born with it. That's their toy. Amazing Kabir for having had such an incredible journey and to be so grounded and so regular and such a sweet guy. And now making such sweet films. Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
sharing this journey with us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much,
Thanks.
Kabir. Thank you once
Bye.
again. Thank you from all
Thank
of
you,
us.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Kabir. Thanks a lot.
Bye, Kabir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you to all the participants and join us again tomorrow. See you soon. Take care. Bye.
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 How Joe?
मजा आ गई.
हाँ.
Yeah, we'll just request all the participants to leave. Ivan, can you stop the live feed?